Chapter 4165. So that's how it is. I knew these old guys wouldn't be so kind as to welcome us. The white-haired old man laughed with a hoarse voice. Neptune glanced at the white-haired old man, not in the mood to laugh at all. Sir. We didn't protect our clansmen well, but the dragon god betraying us is even more unforgivable. Sir, please kill the dragon god and avenge our clansmen. A group of higher-ups angrily roared. The countless sea folk on the island below were also filled with killing intent. Neptune was silent. Actually, he didn't believe that the dragon god would betray him. But in the current situation, the dragon god had already caused public anger. If he helped the dragon god at this time, his clansmen would also be dissatisfied with him. What exactly is going on here? Indeed, only the dragon god knew about his trip to the Central Dynasty. Wait a minute. Omniscient Eye. Could it be that Mu Qing used the Omniscient Eye to spy on his whereabouts? With that thought, Neptune looked at the white-haired old man and asked, "You Lao, how about you rest on the sea god's island for a bit?" "All right." The white-haired old man nodded, then looked at the 10 young men and women behind him and laughed with a hoarse voice. "It's rare for you to leave the Central Dynasty, take this chance to take a stroll." "All right." The 10 of them nodded. Hearing that, Neptune looked at the 10 of them and said, "If that's the case, you can take the sea god's badge and go in and out of the cities, it'll be more convenient." Saying so, Neptune took out 10 golden badges. Each of them was the size of a baby's palm, with the word sea carved on the front and the picture of the sea god on the back. The 10 of them grabbed the badges and looked at them curiously, then left in groups of 2s and 3s, opening a space-time tunnel and leaving with curious expressions. However, just as the 2 masked young men were about to enter the space-time tunnel, the blood-robed young man suddenly looked up at the void of space in the distance. "What's wrong?" The black-haired young man was suspicious. "Nothing." The blood-robed young man waved his hand and smiled, then entered the space-time tunnel without looking back. At the same time, in the distance, above the ocean, the black tortoise world was hidden in the void. Qin Feiyang, Long Chen, and Dong Zhengyang stood side by side as they looked at the sea god's island on the screen. To be exact, they were looking at the blood-red clothed youth and the black-clothed youth. That's right. It's them. Qin Feiyang was very excited. Although both of them were wearing masks, their auras were all too familiar. She would never forget it. It was the inner demons and big cousin. Dong Zhengyang also recognized the two, and his face was full of joy. He had the eye of destiny, and he had always believed that the inner demons and Lu Jiajin couldn't possibly die. Especially Lu Jiajin. The fate of the owner of the Eye of Nothingness had long been determined. He would be with everyone and face the future calamity together. The inner demons seem to have sensed your existence. Long Chen smiled. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. Because before they left, the inner demons glanced in their direction. You should be able to sense the inner demon's location now. Let's go and take a look. Let's find a chance to meet them. Dong Zhengyang said. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded. He and the inner demons could sense each other. Therefore, no matter where the inner demons went, he would be able to find them. On the Dragon God Mountain, Neptune headed straight for this place. You're finally back. The Dragon God, who was sitting alone in the pavilion, sensed Neptune's arrival and immediately stood up to welcome him. What's going on with you? You fell into the hands of this Qin Feiyang again. Neptune furrowed his eyebrows. How would I know? Now, I'm a spy in the eyes of the various races. Especially the sea race. When they see me as an enemy. The dragon god looked irritated. Don't worry. I believe you. Neptune consoled him. What's the use of you believing me? What I need is the trust of the various races. The dragon god sighed. I'm afraid it's very difficult to make everyone believe me now. Unless Qin Feiyang personally admits that this matter has nothing to do with you. But it's easier said than done to make him admit it personally. He's framed you time and time again. His goal is to sow discord between the various races. Actually, I've already guessed how he found out about me going to the Central Dynasty. I think it must be Mu Qing's all-seeing eye. Neptune said in a low voice. Yes. How could I have forgotten about this? The dragon god slapped his head. It must be all-seeing eye. Little did they know that this was just their wishful thinking. They also didn't know that when they were discussing this matter, Qin Feiyang and the others were standing at the side. Although we know it's all-seeing eye, the people below won't believe it. Just bear with it for now. This time, Yu Lao from the Central Dynasty personally led people to help us. I think with his strength, he must have a way to resolve this. Neptune said. Yu Lao. The dragon god's gaze trembled. Then I have to quickly pay him a visit. It's better if you don't go to the Sea God Island. Wait for Yu Lao to rest for 2 days. I'll bring him to your Dragon God Mountain and we'll have a discussion there. Neptune said. What? I don't even have the qualifications to step into the Sea God Island now. The Dragon God was furious. No. Right now, the people below hate you to the bone. If you go to the Sea God Island now, they will definitely speak rudely to you. Can you bear such humiliation? So, I'm doing this for your own good. Neptune comforted him. All right. The dragon god sighed helplessly. A trace of killing intent suddenly appeared in his eyes. He said resentfully, it's all Qin Feiyang's fault. Sooner or later, I will skin them alive. West Continent, human race. A huge city was located on a plain in the north. There were more than 10 million people in the city. Outside the city, on a mountain peak, 3 silhouettes appeared without a sound. It was Qin Feiyang and the other 2. Under Qin Feiyang's perception, the inner demons were in this city. But now the cities in the West Continent were heavily guarded. It was as difficult as ascending to the heavens to sneak in without being noticed. Don't worry. The inner demons should be able to sense that you are outside the city now, so they may take the initiative to look for you. Long Chen comforted him. He could understand Qin Feiyang's mood at this moment. But some things couldn't be rushed. However, after a while, the inner demons still didn't come out of the city. Under Qin Feiyang's perception, the inner demons had been staying somewhere in the city. No, I have to enter the city. Qin Feiyang took out an illusory appearance pill and prepared to change his appearance. Wait a minute. Long Chen stopped Qin Feiyang and said with a smile, send a message to the human race's supreme being first. What's wrong? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. You will know when the time comes. Long Chen smiled. All right. Qin Feiyang glanced around. Seeing that there was no one around, he took out a voice transmission stone. Buzz. Soon. The phantom of the human race's supreme being appeared. Have you also received the news that the people of the Central Dynasty have arrived? The human race's supreme being looked at the 3 of them and asked. We didn't receive the news. We saw it with our own eyes. Long Chen smiled slightly. What? You are now on the Sea God Island. The human race's supreme being was shocked. These little fellows are too daring, aren't they? We were before, but not now. Well, Senior, we are now in a bit of trouble and need your help. Long Chen smiled. You will also encounter trouble. The human race's supreme being was very surprised. Hearing this, Long Chen couldn't help but smile bitterly. We are also mortals, and the omnipotent ones are gods. The human race's supreme being laughed. Tell me, what do you want me to help you with? Give us an enforcer's identity token. This way, we won't have to be checked when we go in and out of the major cities. Long Chen smiled. Qin Feiyang and Dong Zhengyang looked at each other. So this was the reason why they were looking for the human race's supreme being. Indeed. If they disguised themselves as Mount Supreme's enforcers, they would indeed be able to freely enter and exit the major cities. But the human race's supreme being was a bit hesitant. Don't worry. If our identities are still exposed in the end, we will announce to the public that we were the ones who killed your Mount Supreme's enforcers and impersonated them. We won't implicate you. Long Chen knew the human race's supreme being's concerns and promised. If that's the case, then there won't be a problem. Tell me the location, I will personally deliver it to you. The human race's supreme being smiled. He could only make this trip personally. Because his subordinates still didn't know that he had formed an alliance with Qin Feiyang. And because of the spy incident, he didn't dare to easily trust anyone around him. Soon. The human race's supreme being came to the mountain peak and gave the three of them a few enforcers' tokens. Moreover, he also gave them a few sets of enforcers' clothes. The enforcers of Mount Supreme would usually wear the same clothes when carrying out missions. Are you planning to enter this city? The human race's supreme being looked at the city in front of him and asked. Yes. The three of them nodded. What are you going to do in the city? If we are really discovered, it will be quite difficult for me, because at that time, I will have to send people to kill you. The human race's supreme being frowned. Long Chen glanced at Qin Feiyang and said with a smile, there's something important. Seeing that Long Chen didn't say anything, the human race's supreme being said helplessly, all right, I won't ask anymore. Be careful. Okay. Long Chen nodded. The human race's supreme being opened the space-time tunnel and left. Qin Feiyang and the other two quickly changed their clothes and changed their appearances. They wore the tokens on their waists and looked at each other. Clothes make the man, and saddles make the horse. Wearing the enforcer's uniform, they really did look like enforcers. Then, the three of them soared into the sky and flew towards the city in a grand manner. However, although they were disguised as enforcers now, they couldn't pass through the city gate. Because the city gate had heaven's eye stones. Once they entered the city gate, their identities would be exposed immediately. Therefore, they had to fly directly into the city from above the city wall. The three of you, stop, but when they entered the sky above the city wall, the guard guarding the city gate immediately shouted. But when he raised his head and saw the three's clothes and the tokens on their waists, his expression changed. What's the matter? Qin Feiyang stopped and stared at the guards below. His expression was somewhat gloomy and stern. No, I thought someone was going to barge into the city. The guard quickly waved his hand, his eyes filled with fear. The enforcers of Mount Supreme had the power to kill and couldn't be offended. Chapter 4166. All right. Guard the city gate well. Don't let anyone suspicious go. Qin Feiyang said coldly, then turned around and rushed into the city without looking back. That was close. Watching the three of them leave, the guard patted his chest with lingering fear. He had no doubt about the identity of the three. Entering the city. The three of them landed on the street, swaggered along the street, and walked into a restaurant. When the waiter of the restaurant saw the three of them, he immediately went up to them and said in fear, "Is there anything important for you to visit our restaurant?" Qin Feiyang glanced around the hall. Soon. He saw the inner demons and Lu Jiajin in a corner. The excitement in his heart couldn't be any greater. At the same time, Long Chen also glanced at the inner demons, then looked at the waiter and said with a smile, "Don't be nervous, we're just here to drink." I see. The waiter breathed a sigh of relief and said with a flattering smile, "There's a private room upstairs. I'll arrange it right away." "No need. I think it's over there." Long Chen pointed to the table next to the inner demons. The waiter was stunned and quickly said, "There are too many people in the hall. It's too noisy. I'm afraid to disturb the three of you," but before he finished speaking, Qin Feiyang stared at him directly. Okay. The waiter suddenly panicked and quickly nodded, "I'll clean it up right away." After saying that, he ran over to wipe the table. Qin Feiyang and the other two also walked over. In the hall, it was indeed noisy because there were more than a dozen tables of guests. But as they sat at the table, it immediately quieted down. Everyone's eyes were filled with fear. But the two masked young men next to them seemed not to see it and continued to drink. After a while, the waiter came over with good wine and dishes. After the waiter left, Qin Feiyang and the other two also drank as if nothing had happened. It seemed that they were waiting for the other party to speak first. Time passed by little by little. Qin Feiyang finally couldn't help but send a voice transmission, "Is it you?" His voice was a little trembling. The two masked youths were stunned. They turned to look at Qin Feiyang and asked suspiciously, "Brother, are you talking to us?" This reaction caused Qin Feiyang to be rather surprised. If he could sense the inner demons, it was impossible for the inner demons not to sense him. No matter how he changed his appearance, they should know it was him. But now, his tone was completely that of a stranger. "Don't worry. Let me talk to them first." Long Chen comforted Qin Feiyang. Because he knew that Qin Feiyang must be a bit confused at this moment. As for the inner demons, they came from the Central Dynasty, so they didn't know anything about them. Therefore, it was better to be vigilant. Hence, Long Chen picked up his wine glass, stood up and walked to the opposite side of the inner demons. He smiled and said, "Gentlemen, may I sit down?" "You are." The black-clothed youth raised his head and looked at him in confusion. This voice, Qin Feiyang's eyes trembled. This was his big cousin's voice. Long Chen pointed to the token on his waist and smiled, "I am the enforcer of Mount Supreme." Enforcer, the two looked at the token. The black-haired youth smiled and said, "What's the matter?" "Nothing big. I just feel that the two of you are a bit familiar." Long Chen smiled. "We are all wearing masks, and you still feel that we are familiar? I really admire your eyesight," the blood-clothed youth said with a smile. At this moment, Qin Feiyang's arm trembled again, and the wine in the cup spilled out. Because this voice was the voice of the inner demons. There was no mistake. Whether it was the inner demons or his big cousin, their voices didn't change much from before. Dong Jingyang was also secretly paying attention to the two. His eyes flickered. Because he recognized the two's voices. Long Chen glanced at the inner demons and chuckled, "To be honest, I just feel that the masks on your faces are a bit familiar." "The masks are a bit familiar?" Hearing Long Chen's words, the others in the hall couldn't help but look at the inner demons. "Don't say. It really does seem a bit familiar. The two of you, Qin Feiyang and his group, are currently wreaking havoc in our divine kingdom, and the two of you are wearing masks, which makes you seem a bit mysterious. So please cooperate with the inspection." Long Chen spoke again. The smile on his face disappeared, and his eyes were slightly cold. "Cooperate with the inspection? You are just an enforcer. Do you have the right? Look at what this is." The blood-clothed youth smiled in disdain. He took out a token and slammed it on the table. "See God token." The hall suddenly became noisy. Their eyes were filled with respect. To be able to have the See God token, he was no ordinary person. Wait. I remember. They seem to be the two mysterious young men who appeared out of nowhere and suppressed the geniuses of various clans. Suddenly, someone exclaimed. "What? They are the mysterious young men who suppressed the geniuses of various clans?" Qin Feiyang and Dong Zhengyang looked at each other, their eyes full of disbelief. So, the inner demons and Lu Jiajin had already entered the divine kingdom 1,000 years ago. Long Chen pretended to recall for a moment. Suddenly, a look of realization appeared on his face. He looked at the two of them and said, "I was wondering why they looked a bit familiar. It turns out to be you. Now, do you still doubt our identity?" The blood-clothed youth laughed. "I wouldn't dare. However, the origins of the two of you are truly a bit surprising. You are actually from the Sea tribe." Long Chen smiled. "Who told you that we are from the Sea tribe?" The inner demons looked at Long Chen with interest. "If you are not from the Sea tribe, how can you have the Sea God token?" Long Chen asked back. "If you have the Sea God token, you must be from the Sea tribe. Your logic is a bit ridiculous." The inner demons pursed his lips with a hint of mockery. "Where are those two from? What is their relationship with the Sea tribe?" Long Chen was curious. "Where are we from?" The two of them looked at each other. The inner demons shook his head and sneered, "Your question is really quite stupid. Of course, we are from the human clan like you. As for our relationship with the Sea tribe, it is a long story. We don't need to report to you. If there is nothing else, don't disturb us from drinking." "Okay. Sorry to disturb you." Long Chen smiled apologetically and returned to Qin Feiyang's side. He asked through voice transmission, "Did you notice anything strange from them?" Qin Feiyang and Dong Zhengyang pondered. Suddenly, light flashed in their eyes. There were hints. The first hint was about their origins. The inner demons said that they were from the human clan like them. This same did not refer to the West Continent, nor the human clan of the Divine Kingdom. It was a hint that they came from the same place. That was, the Great Qin. The second hint was when Long Chen asked them what their relationship with the Sea tribe was. The inner demon's answer was complicated. This was a long story, but it contained a deep meaning. What he meant was that he had his own difficulties. In other words, the inner demons admitted their identity through this hint, and they couldn't admit it now because they had other difficulties. It seems that Brother Qin hasn't lost his mind. Long Chen laughed secretly. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at him. His mind was indeed a little chaotic before, but now he had calmed down. Since the inner demons and big cousin were unwilling to admit it now, he would wait and see. Maybe they really had some difficulties. At this time, two middle-aged men walked in, sat next to them, and shouted, "Waiter, 2 pots of wine." "Okay." The waiter nodded and walked over quickly with 2 pots of wine. The two men raised their heads and drank half of the wine in one gulp. One of them put down the wine pot and shook his head. Qin Feiyang and his group have really stirred up trouble in the Divine Kingdom. Huh. Hearing this, everyone was stunned and turned to look at the two men. "Brother, what do you mean?" Long Chen also looked at the two men curiously. "Law enforcers." The two middle-aged men were stunned. They turned to look at Qin Feiyang and the other two, and their faces suddenly changed. "Don't be nervous." Long Chen waved his hand and smiled. He asked, "From what you said just now, did Qin Feiyang and his group make a big noise again?" "No, they didn't. There's news that the people of the Central Dynasty are here." The middle-aged man smiled obsequiously. The Central Dynasty. Everyone's eyes trembled. "That's right. I heard that the Central Dynasty is specifically targeting Qin Feiyang and his group this time. And there's another news. Neptune personally said that he wants Qin Feiyang to go to the East Continent for a talk." The two middle-aged men said one after another. Neptune wants Qin Feiyang to go to the East Continent for a talk. Everyone was stunned. What did that mean? It's obvious. Neptune wants to negotiate with Qin Feiyang to rescue the sea gods and millions of people. Tell me the truth. I really admire the courage of Qin Feiyang and his group to go against these big shots. The two middle-aged men shook their heads and sighed. Yeah. First, it was Mount Supreme of the human race, then the divine island of the gods, then the dragon god mountain of the beasts, and now the sea god island of the oceanic race. And each time, they can inflict heavy losses on the major races. The most important thing is that they always manage to escape. I really don't know how they do it. People immediately began to talk with disbelief on their faces. They won't be arrogant for long. All of a sudden, the inner demons laughed and got up to pay the bill. Then he left with Lu Jiajin without looking back. Everyone was stunned as they looked at the backs of the two people. They disappeared for so long and now they suddenly reappeared. Is it because of Qin Feiyang and his group? I'm afraid so. After all, they are the heavenly talents of the divine kingdom. As heavenly talents, they must be unconvinced when they meet arrogant people like Qin Feiyang. At the same time, Qin Feiyang and the other two looked at each other, got up to pay the bill and left. After the three of them left, the people in the restaurant were no longer restrained and their discussions became more unscrupulous. And the people on the street were also talking about it. Moreover, soon, another piece of news spread like crazy. A group of people appeared out of thin air in the four great continents and said that they wanted to challenge Qin Feiyang and his group. Qin Feiyang and the other two walked on the street and listened silently for a while. Then they opened a space-time passage and returned to the back mountain of the village. At this moment, in front of the wooden building, an old man was looking at the wooden building suspiciously. Why was there a time array here? Did he go to the wrong place? But no. This was indeed his home. This old man was Jijio. After returning from the Sea God Island, a group of old men gathered together to discuss something. But suddenly, they found that Dong Xingyang had disappeared, so Jijio came to the back mountain to take a look. As soon as he entered the tea garden, he sensed the aura of a time array. He thought that Dong Xingyang was in the house, but when he entered the house, there was no trace of Dong Xingyang at all. Dong Xingyang had disappeared. There was another time array here. What was going on? Whoosh! However, when Qin Feiyang and the other two came together and appeared on the balcony on the second floor together, Jijio knew what was going on. And he immediately put on a defensive posture. Chapter 4167. Master Jiu. As soon as Qin Feiyang appeared and saw Lord Jiu standing in front of the wooden building, a smile immediately appeared on his face. He asked even though he already knew the answer, "You've returned from the Sea God's Island? Why didn't you inform us in advance? We could have gone to welcome you. One who is unaccountably solicitous is hiding evil intentions." Master Jiu snorted coldly, then turned around and scanned the tea garden. "Do you not trust us that much?" Qin Feiyang said with grievance. "Don't count me and Long Chen in. The old master doesn't trust you." Dong Xingyang reminded. The corner of Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched. A moment later, Master Jiu heaved a sigh of relief. None of the tea trees in the tea garden were missing. Then, he looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "What are you doing here?" This, Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes and pulled Long Chen with a smile, "Let me introduce you. This is my good brother, Long Chen, and also Long Qin's elder brother." Master Jiu looked at Long Chen. "Hello, senior." Long Chen smiled slightly and said politely, "You're welcome." Master Jiu's expression eased a lot, and he said with a smile, "Your name is like thunder to this old man's ears." "No, no." Long Chen waved his hand modestly. "Don't be modest. In today's world, only your God's domain can really restrain the 3,000 incarnations. You don't know yet, do you? Now, as long as the young people in our clan mention you, they will change their expression. They all regard you as the biggest enemy of the purple gold divine dragon clan. Master Ji Jiao chuckled. Indeed. At present, the only method that could really restrain the 3,000 incarnations was Long Chen's god's domain. As for the dragon god and Neptune, although their origin energy could restrain the 3,000 incarnations, in a sense, it couldn't be considered a restraint. Ha! Hearing this, Long Chen was quite embarrassed. Tell me the truth. When I first heard about the god's domain, I was also shocked. How could someone activate such a fighting soul? Fortunately, we are not enemies now. Ji Jiao said with a smile. It's all because of your righteousness that we were able to turn enemies into friends. These words were not false at all. If it weren't for the decisiveness of this group of elders, the monarch would probably still be hesitating. Ji Jiao was taken aback. He shook his head and said with a smile, "Young man, you really know how to talk. It's the truth." Long Chen's flattery made Ji Jiao very happy. He then asked, "Do you know the current situation of the Divine Sea Island?" "I know." Qin Feiyang nodded. "You know." Master Ji Jiao was taken aback. He had received the news so quickly. Everyone is talking about it now. Someone from the Central Dynasty has also issued a challenge to me. I really don't understand. Don't these people know how to keep a low profile? Qin Feiyang shook his head. Even you know how to keep a low profile? Ji Jiao was speechless. He really wanted to ask if Ji Jiao had ever kept a low profile after coming to the Divine Kingdom. I was forced by the situation. If the situation allows, I don't want to show my face at all. Qin Feiyang said helplessly. Yes, yes, yes. You were forced by us. Ji Jiao rolled his eyes and asked, "So, what are you going to do now? Do you plan to?" Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and shook his head. "I don't have any plans. Let them be if they want to clamor. What about the sea gods and the millions of Oceanids?" Ji Jiao asked. "Well, let's talk about it after I come out of seclusion." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. He was not in a hurry to deal with this matter at all. "You want to go into seclusion?" Ji Jiao looked at him suspiciously. Not only had this kid comprehended the ultimate profundity of the law of life and death, but he had also mastered 2 wills of the heavenly Tao. Did he still need to go into seclusion? Yes. How can you make yourself stronger if you don't go into seclusion? Qin Feiyang chuckled. That makes sense. But now that your strength has reached the peak, what are you going to cultivate in seclusion? Ji Jiao was puzzled. You can comprehend other laws. Our plan is to master the ultimate mysteries of all the laws in the world. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Ah. Ji Jiao was stunned. This dream was really ambitious. However, it was easier said than done. Thinking back to his life, after countless years, he had only comprehended these ultimate mysteries of the strongest laws. But we'll stay here when we go into seclusion. Don't drive us away. Qin Feiyang bared his teeth. What? You want to go into seclusion with me? Ji Jiao immediately became vigilant. He was definitely up to no good. You don't welcome us? Qin Feiyang asked. Of course, you don't welcome us. Ji Jiao snorted coldly. I can't wait for you to get lost now so that you don't have to worry about me all day. I'm so sad. Qin Feiyang lowered his head and sighed. Originally, I wanted to stay here and take good care of you, but now that you said that... Stop, stop. Ji Jiao couldn't stand it anymore and said with a dark face, don't put on a sad show with me here. Just tell me, what's your purpose? No purpose. Really? Let's talk about it later. You've already given me dozens of tea trees. If I still have other thoughts, am I still human? Qin Feiyang smiled flatteringly. Stop, stop, stop. Don't be so glib with me. Ji Jiao rubbed his forehead. When he thought of those dozens of tea trees, he couldn't help but feel distressed. But now, he actually said that he was the one who gave them to him. Please calm down. Anger hurts your liver. Qin Feiyang hurriedly stepped forward and patted Ji Jiao's back gently. It hurts my liver because you're angry. Ji Jiao glared at him and said helplessly, okay, I can let you stay, but I'll say the ugly words first. Don't have any other thoughts. Don't worry, don't worry. We'll definitely behave. Qin Feiyang immediately patted his chest and promised. I believe in Dong Zhengyang and Long Chen's rules, but you. I'll give you 2 words, Ji Jiao's face was full of disdain. Qin Feiyang smiled awkwardly. This great-grandfather of his was really quite displeased with him now. Ji Jiao sighed helplessly. He could only be considered unlucky to have met this kid. Then, he looked at Dong Zhengyang and asked, have you integrated the inheritance I gave you? Yes. Dong Zhengyang nodded. Then wait a moment. I'll go to Big Brother and get another inheritance. After saying that, Ji Jiao was ready to go down the mountain. Don't. Thank you for your kindness, Ji Jiao, but now, I don't need it anymore. You'd better keep it for yourselves and give it to the descendants who will need it in the future. Dong Zhengyang said. What do you mean? Ji Jiao was stunned and looked at him suspiciously. Dong Zhengyang and Qin Feiyang looked at each other and smiled. Brother Qin has already given me all the ultimate mysteries. What? Ji Jiao looked at the 2 of them in shock. All the ultimate mysteries? Did he hear it wrong? Yes. The various supreme laws and the various ordinary laws are all present, Yi Fujian said. Dong Zhengyang nodded. Hearing this, Ji Jiao took a deep breath and looked at Qin Feiyang. Where did you get so many inheritances? Well, if you give me dozens of tea trees, I'll tell you. Qin Feiyang chuckled. Get lost. Ji Jiao's face immediately darkened. Sure enough, he was still coveting his tea garden. No. He couldn't let a wolf into his house. Don't misunderstand, I'm just joking. Qin Feiyang noticed that something was wrong with Ji Jiao's eyes. He immediately smiled flatteringly and said, it's all thanks to Long Chen, but this matter has to be kept a secret for the time being. Ji Jiao looked at Long Chen again. Long Chen just smiled mysteriously. Okay. I won't ask. Ji Jiao glanced at the 2 of them and shook his head. Since you're going to stay here, let's go down and say hello to everyone first. It just so happens that your other great-grandfathers and great-grandmothers are also very interested in Long Chen. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded. Then. The 3 of them followed Ji Jiao and flew down the mountain. Seeing Qin Feiyang coming down from the back mountain, Boss Ji and the other elders couldn't help but be stunned. When they introduced Long Chen, the group of elders also praised him. The 4 great continents. It was quite lively during this period of time. Firstly, it was because of the grudge between Qin Feiyang and the Sea tribe. Secondly, it was because of the 10 great prodigies from the Central Dynasty. Not only did these prodigies issue a challenge to Qin Feiyang, but they also entered the clans of the various races in a high-profile manner. Mount Supreme. That morning, 2 figures descended in the sky. Who is it? The 10 sovereigns guarding Mount Supreme immediately rushed into the sky. When they saw who it was, a trace of suspicion appeared on their faces. They were 2 young men wearing masks. One had black hair like a waterfall, and the other had red hair. It was the inner demons and Lu Jiajin. Lu Jiajin crossed his arms and remained silent. The inner demons glanced at the 10 sovereigns and laughed. Lord Sovereigns, how many years has it been? You don't remember us? It's you. The 10 sovereigns took a closer look and their pupils immediately shrank. They immediately recalled the scene from 1,000 years ago. Back then. Just like today, the two of them directly charged into Mount Supreme and swept through all the prodigies there. It seems that the sovereigns have a good memory. I wonder if the prodigies of Mount Supreme have improved after all these years. The inner demons looked down at the mountains and rivers below, a bloody light flashing in his eyes. The 10 sovereigns looked at each other and frowned. Are they here to challenge the prodigies of Mount Supreme again? The inner demons smirked and shouted, "Those who lost to us before, don't hide in your cave abodes. Come out quickly. Bastard! What are you so arrogant for?" Before he finished, a group of young men and women angrily rushed into the sky along with a few angry shouts. The blue-haired young man, Wang Feng, the red-clothed woman, Luo Dan, and the black-clothed young man, Lu Sheng. These people who lost to Qin Feiyang and the others were also among them. The inner demons looked at them one by one and was slightly stunned. He said suspiciously, "I remember there's someone called Zhao Hong, right? Why don't I see him? Could it be that he's scared out of his wits and doesn't dare to come out?" When the group heard this, their faces were filled with anger. Especially the 10 sovereigns. Killing intent flowed out from their eyes. However, this killing intent wasn't targeted at the inner demons and Lu Jiajin. It was targeted at Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing. The rumors can't be true, right? Zhao Hong was killed by Mu Qing's people. The inner demons asked. Remaining 2 chapters, released before 11 o'clock. Chapter 4168. Why did he have to rub salt into their wounds? Back then. Zhao Hong was killed by Mu Qing with the flame magic sword. And it happened at Mount Supreme. After that, many creatures in the West Continent talked about them behind their backs. So. They didn't want to think about it because it was humiliating. But now. The inner demons tore open their wounds mercilessly, so they were naturally furious. It's true. TSK TSK TSK. How embarrassing. Although this Zhao Hong is indeed trash, he managed to last 2 rounds against me back then. Never would I have thought that he would actually die at the hands of trash like Mu Qing. The inner demon snickered. How dare you? Wang Feng was furious. He took a step forward and charged into the sky. The laws of time, the laws of gold, and the laws of earth were activated. The inner demons paused for a moment and said in surprise, "I remember that you mastered these 3 ultimate mysteries back then. Why are you still using the same 3 ultimate mysteries? Then let me see how strong you have become." Wang Feng was furious. The 3 ultimate mysteries attacked crazily. Hee hee. The inner demon smiled faintly, the disdain between her brows vividly displayed. Boom. A force of death and a force of destruction burst out with a roar. 2 ultimate laws instantly appeared out of thin air and crushed down on Yi Qingyu like crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. Seeing this, the 10 sovereigns quickly activated their laws and formed a barrier to isolate the battlefield. Otherwise, Mount Supreme would be razed to the ground again. At the same time, they were also looking forward to it. How strong were these 2 mysterious young men now? Ordinary people didn't know, but as the sovereigns of Mount Supreme, they knew about the inner demons. These years. The reason why they disappeared was because they went to the Central Dynasty. Even the sovereigns of the human race didn't dare to enter the Central Dynasty without permission, let alone the sovereigns. The 2 of them had been in the Central Dynasty for so many years, so they should be even more terrifying than before. Boom. In the blink of an eye, the 5 ultimate mysteries clashed. There was no suspense. Wang Feng's 3 ultimates were completely crushed by Yi Shiwen's attack. This was because even though he had 3 ultimate profound meanings, he only had 1 ultimate profound meaning. As for the inner demons, the 2 ultimate profound meanings were both ultimate laws. With Wang Feng's one supreme law and two ordinary laws, how could he block his two supreme laws? Puff! Wang Feng immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. However, his expression became more and more gloomy. Back then, I was indeed no match for you. But now, killing you is like killing a dog. As he laughed, a terrifying death energy surged out of Wang Feng's body like a tide. Rumble. The 18 levels of hell instantly appeared in the sky, emitting a monstrous aura. Not bad. I've already comprehended the ultimate profundity of the laws of death. The inner demons cackled. When he invaded the sky cloud realm, Wang Feng had yet to comprehend the ultimate profundity of the laws of death. It could be seen that he had grown quite quickly over the years. Kneel down and accept your death. Wang Feng sneered. The laws of time, earth, and metal were activated once again. The four ultimate profound meanings instantly carried a destructive aura as they charged toward the inner demons. Sigh. The inner demons shook his head and sighed. His gaze suddenly turned cold as he said domineeringly, "You want me to kneel down and accept my death? Do you have the qualifications?" Rumble. His body shook. The laws of time and space emerged. In the sky, a river of stars appeared. Countless stars flickered, and each star was like a world, exuding a vast aura. This is, Wang Feng's gaze trembled. The laws of time and space, the ultimate profundity. Trash, you're still trash. The inner demons cackled. The laws of death and destruction appeared once again. The three ultimate profound meanings shattered the sky and charged toward Wang Feng. With a loud bang, Wang Feng's four ultimate profound meanings were once again crushed. Following that, the inner demon's ultimate profound meaning ruthlessly charged toward Wang Feng. Wang Feng's gaze trembled. All these years, he had worked hard enough. Especially when he was defeated by Qin Feiyang and the others in the Tianyun realm. He had been cultivating in seclusion, hoping that one day he would be able to wash away his shame. But unexpectedly, he was still not a match for this person. In the nick of time, Luo Dan and Lu Sheng rushed into the barrier and stood in front of Wang Feng. Numerous ultimate profound meanings appeared. Right now, both of them had also grasped two ultimate profound meanings. Their strength had also improved a lot. Moreover, there were also two ordinary laws of time and space. Adding them together, that was 8 ultimate profound meanings. People who could master 4 ultimate profound meanings, even if 2 of them were ordinary laws, were already strong enough. In the Tianyun realm, they would be giants who dominated a region. Therefore, one could not underestimate these geniuses of the divine kingdom just because Qin Feiyang and the others were powerful. It was no exaggeration to say that. Wang Feng and the other 2 were on par with giants like the Feather Emperor, the Blood Ancestor, the Dragon King, Feng Ho, and the Kirin Lord. 8 ultimate profound meanings swept out. The 3 ultimate profound meanings of the inner demon's 3 ultimate profound meanings shattered. The corner of his mouth, a stream of blood flowed out. Since you can't fight me one-on-one, you want to gang up? All right. I'll fulfill your wish. If you're not convinced, come at me together. The inner demons glanced at the other geniuses below and laughed. Arrogant. Wait until you defeat Wang Feng, Luo Dan, and Lu Sheng first. The geniuses below sneered. Just these 3 trash. Don't joke around. Killing them is as easy as crushing an ant. The inner demons laughed wildly. Rumble. Inside his body, wisps of terrifying and despairing auras burst out from the ground. Destruction law, space-time law, death law, after that. A time law and a karma law surged out. Boom. In just an instant, the ultimate profound meanings of the 5 ultimate profound meanings appeared in the sky. The terrifying aura shook the world. What? The ultimate profundity of the 5 supreme laws? Wang Feng and his crew, the geniuses, and the 10 martial highnesses were dumbfounded. This was too strong. Are you scared already? Trash like you should be honored to be able to make me use 1% of my strength. The inner demons smiled coldly. As soon as he finished speaking, the law of devour roared out again. What? The ultimate profound of the 6 supreme laws. Doesn't that mean he has already grasped the will of the heavenly Tao? At this moment, all the disciples on Mount Supreme felt as if they had been struck by lightning, and their minds rumbled. The will of the heavenly Tao, this was an existence comparable to the 10 great venerables. And the will of the heavenly Tao was also the symbol of the strongest. Because mastering the will of the heavenly path was equivalent to standing at the top of the pyramid of the divine kingdom. No. To an ordinary person, the will of the heavenly Tao was standing at the peak of the cultivation path. In the meantime, the hearts of the 10 martial highnesses were filled with great astonishment. They remembered that when this person appeared 1,000 years ago, he had only mastered 2 ultimate profundities of the supreme laws. How could he have comprehended 4 ultimate profundities in a mere 1,000 years? Even with the time array, he couldn't have done it. Could it be that this person was hiding his strength back then? Boom! It was another scene of destruction. In the blink of an eye, Wang Feng and his crew were all severely injured and fell to the ground. The other geniuses below still had the courage to clamor before, but after seeing the will of the heavenly Tao, they were only left with fear. I'm flattering you by calling you trash. The inner demons scanned the crowd with a look of disdain. Then, he smashed the bodies of a group of geniuses with a palm, and blood dyed the sky red. Wang Feng and his crew's divine souls escaped from the barrier, and their faces were filled with fear. But the inner demons didn't look at them again. It was as if they weren't qualified for him to look at them again. He stepped in front of the barrier, and a divine light flashed from his fingertip, and the barrier was shattered on the spot. The 10 martial highnesses were stunned. What kind of technique was this? It actually broke the barrier that they set up together in an instant. Human geniuses. What a joke. The inner demons smiled contemptuously, opened a space-time tunnel, and left without looking back. Lu Jiajin didn't say a word. After the battle ended, he just smiled faintly, turned around, and entered the tunnel, leaving with the inner demons. So powerful. Among the younger generation of the divine kingdom, I'm afraid he's the first one to master the will of the heavenly Tao. Maybe, their appearance isn't a bad thing. The great venerable whispered. What do you mean? The other 9 martial highnesses looked at him in confusion. Because the 2 of them should be able to fight against people like Qin Feiyang. The great venerable's eyes flashed. Hearing this, the 9 martial highnesses couldn't help but be moved. That's right. Qin Feiyang and the others all mastered the will of the heavenly Tao. Not to mention the younger generation of the divine kingdom, even the older generation like them couldn't compete with them. Maybe the 2 mysterious young men could break this situation. The news of the inner demons coming to Mount Supreme and defeating the human race's prodigies quickly spread across the 4 continents. Any living being who learned of this was shocked to the extreme. Even the king and the divine king were shocked, and they received the message from the human race's sovereign. They didn't expect it. In just 1,000 years, the 2 mysterious young men had become so powerful. The next day. God race's sacred land, God's island. 2 figures descended on the God's island. It was the inner demons and Lu Jiajin again. With their arrival, the God's island immediately fell into chaos. What is the meaning of this? The divine king personally appeared and asked the 2. Back then, it was the same situation. After defeating the prodigies of Mount Supreme, they came to the God's island the next day. Lord Divine King, aren't you asking the obvious? The inner demons laughed. The divine king suppressed the anger in his heart and said, "There's no need to fight anymore. The prodigies of the God race are no match for you. I didn't expect Lord Divine King to be so straightforward. However, it can be seen that the prodigies of the God race are no different from the prodigies of Mount Supreme. They're all a bunch of trash. The inner demons laughed and was about to turn and leave. Who are you calling trash? Suddenly, an angry roar sounded and a group of young men ran out. Among them were Jiang Xing and Jiang Chen. Don't mess around. The Divine King's expression changed and immediately shouted. Although he was extremely unhappy with the inner demon's arrogant attitude, there was nothing he could do. No one in the younger generation of the God race could compete with them. Even if he was angry, he could only endure it. Moreover, this place was someone from the Central Dynasty. All the more he couldn't provoke them. Chapter 41-69. Lord, he has humiliated our God clan. If we don't dare to accept the challenge, wouldn't that be tantamount to admitting that the younger generation of the God clan is trash? If so, how will the world talk about us behind our backs in the future? So, Lord, please allow us to fight with him. Jiang Chen bowed and asked for permission to fight. That's right. That's a man with guts. If you don't even have the courage to fight, I'm afraid you can't even be considered trash. The inner demon smirked. His attitude was arrogant to the extreme. Lu Jiajin was still the same as before. He crossed his arms and stood silently at the side, looking like a bystander. All right. The Divine King looked at Jiang Chen and the rest. Seeing that this group of young people had a determined attitude, he couldn't help but nod gently. Then, he looked at the inner demons and said, but let's say this first. Don't go too far. Of course. I won't even activate the will of the heavenly path. The inner demons nodded. The Divine King raised his eyebrows. It seemed like he was giving in, but in fact, he was humiliating the God clan. Why don't I see Jiang Yunchuang? Could it be that the rumors are true and he was killed by Qin Feiyang? The inner demons looked at the group of people mockingly. Shut up. Jiang Chen and Jiang Xing took a step forward and instantly activated all their ultimate profound meanings. Now, both of them had mastered the ultimate profound meanings of two ultimate laws. Moreover, with the mark of the God clan, they could erupt with lethality that surpassed the ultimate profound meanings. Seems like I've poked your sore spot. The inner demons grinned. Although he said he would stop, he didn't show any mercy. The ultimate profound meanings of all 6 ultimate laws were activated. The will of the heavenly path suddenly erupted. Boom! In just an instant, the two of them were seriously injured and couldn't fight back. That's it. The inner demons was stunned. His tone was full of mockery. Didn't you say you won't activate the will of the heavenly path? Jiang Chen roared. You believe me just because I said so. The inner demons smiled brightly, but his eyes looked like he was looking at a fool. Bastard, let's attack together. Jiang Chen was enraged to the extreme. As he shouted, the outstanding geniuses of the God clan soared up into the sky, using their ultimate power Upanishads and God marks. That battle formation was indeed a little frightening. You are indeed more courageous than those trash from Mount Supreme. However, the difference in strength is not something that can be made up for with bloodthirst. The inner demons took a step forward, and the will of the heavenly path shrouded the entire area. They began to fight with the group of sky prides. Don't say it. Relying on the God clan's mark and their advantage in numbers, the group of heavenly legends was quite capable. They were evenly matched with the inner demons. This gave the group of sky prides a glimmer of hope to defeat the inner demons. Jiang Chen and Jiang Xing, in particular, were brimming with killing intent. The mark of the God clan is indeed extraordinary. However, it's still inferior to the will of the heavenly Tao. The inner demons cackled. Xiao Chen activated the instant time and landed beside Jiang Chen. Then, he sent a palm strike at Jiang Chen's head. Ah! Accompanied by a painful scream, Jiang Chen's head shattered on the spot. His soul fled in terror. In less than a few breaths, the other sky prides were also defeated one after another. Their bodies were all destroyed. Their souls escaped from their bodies and flew towards the Divine King in terror. Don't panic. We agreed to stop at a certain point. I won't harm your lives. The inner demons laughed wantonly. The Divine King clenched his fists, suppressing the anger in his heart, and said, "Since you are so powerful, then I will rely on you to defeat Qin Feiyang and the others in the future." Qin Feiyang, the inner demon's expression changed slightly, but it instantly returned to normal. He cackled, "Don't worry, I will not disappoint Lord Divine King's expectations." Swish. However, at this moment, two purple figures descended from the sky. "Come and defeat us first." They were Ryuko and Ji Shaoi. The Divine King was taken aback. Why would these two take the initiative to come to the island and challenge this mysterious youth? The inner demons also looked surprised. "Anyway, you will go to the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan to challenge us tomorrow, so we might as well take the initiative to find you," Ryuko said proudly. You know us quite well." The inner demons laughed. "Laugh all you want. You will cry later," Ryuko sneered. "So confident. But why did I hear that you can't even defeat Qin Feiyang? No, you can't even defeat Long Chen of the Sky Cloud Realm?" The inner demons looked at him mockingly. When Ryuko heard this, his face darkened. This matter was also the shame of his life. Whenever he thought of this matter, he couldn't help but go crazy. "Don't be provoked by him," Ji Shaoi reminded. "Don't worry. I am not that weak." Long Chen smiled ferociously. He activated his 3,000 incarnations and said coldly, "So what if you have the will of the heavenly Tao? In front of the 3,000 incarnations of my Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan, you are just an ant." The inner demons frowned and said, "I remember when I fought with you back then, you didn't inherit the 3,000 incarnations, right? That's why I was defeated by you back then. And now, I have 3,000 incarnations, and I am no longer someone you can provoke. Today, I will wash away my shame." Ryuko smiled sinisterly. Ultimate profound meanings appeared one after another. The law of cause and effect, the law of destruction, and the law of time. Back then, when he invaded the Sky Cloud Realm, his law of time was only at the level of the ultimate profound meaning. It could be seen. He had worked very hard these years. 3 ultimate profound meanings of the strongest law, plus 3,000 incarnations, that was a total of 9,000 ultimate profound meanings. With 9,000 ultimate profound meanings of the strongest law, the will of the heavenly Tao really couldn't contend with it. In short, to fight against 3,000 incarnations, unless you also had 3,000 incarnations, Long Chen's domain of divinity, or the power of origin of the divine kingdom, no matter how strong you were, you couldn't be a match for 3,000 incarnations. The Divine King raised his eyebrows and said in a deep voice, "Go to the galaxy." 9,000 ultimate profound meanings were equivalent to 9,000 sovereign divine weapons. Even the barrier she personally set up on the island couldn't resist such divine power. "Don't run if you have the guts." Ryuko glanced at the Divine King, stared at the inner demons, and smiled coldly. Then he took Ji Shaoi and the 3,000 incarnations and rushed toward the galaxy without looking back. Run. The word run will never exist in my dictionary. The inner demons muttered and took a step into the sky. A monstrous murderous aura roared out, and the void around him instantly turned into a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. Even the Divine King couldn't help but be shocked by such a murderous aura. How many massacres did he have to go through? How much blood did his hands have to be stained with to create such a terrifying murderous aura? 3,000 incarnations, it's still worth looking forward to. Lu Jiajin smiled faintly and also stepped into the galaxy. Worth looking forward to. The Divine King was in disbelief when he heard this. These words were too arrogant. The power of 3,000 incarnations was obvious to all. Even she, the Divine King, was afraid of them. But in this person's eyes, it was only worth looking forward to. Fine. I want to see what other abilities you have besides the will of the heavenly Tao. Behave yourselves. After warning Jiang Chen and the others, the Divine King also stepped into the galaxy without looking back. Chapter 4170. Star River. Ryuko and Ji Shaoi were the first to enter the Star River. When the inner demons stepped into the Star River, Ryuko sneered, "Don't say I didn't give you a chance. Now, I'll give you some time to prepare." The inner demons was slightly taken aback. "You're so confident that you can defeat me? What do you think? Take a good look at the 3,000 incarnations behind me. They have a total of 9,000 ultimate laws. What are you going to use to fight me? Don't tell me you also have 3,000 incarnations." The corner of Ryuko's mouth raised slightly. That arrogant attitude made the inner demons laugh. "What are you laughing at?" Ryuko raised his eyebrows. "Now I finally understand why you've been defeated repeatedly in the Sky Cloud realm. With your arrogant personality, it's already a miracle that you can live until now." The inner demon's face was full of ridicule. "With such a playboy mentality, you can fight me and that wolf cub? Isn't that just crushing? You're courting death." Ryuko's eyes turned cold. He could say anything, but what happened in the Sky Cloud realm couldn't be mentioned in front of him, because it would be exposing his scars. As his voice fell, the 3,000 incarnations were also full of murderous intent. 9,000 ultimate laws suddenly turned into a torrent, drowning the starry sky, and crazily attacking the inner demons. "Do you need me?" Lu Jiajin, who was standing not far away, suddenly asked. The Divine King stood at the entrance of the Star River. When he heard this, he immediately looked at Lu Jiajin. From his tone, could this young man defeat the 3,000 incarnations? In today's world, it seemed that only Long Chen's domain of divinity could restrain the 3,000 incarnations. Where did this confidence come from? The inner demons glanced at Lu Jiajin, then glanced at the 3,000 incarnations behind Ryuko and laughed. "Won't you be using a sledgehammer to crack a nut? You just watch from the side." "Okay." Lu Jiajin nodded. Although his expression couldn't be seen due to the mask, his eyes remained calm. He didn't put Ryuko and Ji Shaoi in his eyes at all. In the blink of an eye, the 9,000 ultimate laws of nature were about to reach the inner demons. That terrifying aura was indeed a little frightening. But the red eyes of the inner demons were filled with mockery. Boom! All of a sudden, a monstrous baleful aura erupted. In an instant, the inner demons seemed to have transformed into a blood-clad demon king. Waves of blood surged around him, drowning the entire area. It was also within the waves of blood that several figures suddenly appeared. Every single one of these figures wore blood-red clothes and had blood-red hair. They were like peerless demon kings that had returned, and their murderous auras soared into the sky. The most important thing was, these blood-cloaked demon kings were exactly the same as the inner demons in terms of height and temperament. However, their faces were shrouded in a bloody mist, making it impossible for others to see their true appearances. 3,000 clones. The Divine King's eyes widened. If these weren't 3,000 incarnations, then what were they? This person actually had 3,000 incarnations as well. How was this possible? 3,000 incarnations was a secret technique of the purple-gold divine dragon clan. Qin Feiyang was able to master 3,000 incarnations because of the princess of the divine kingdom. But this person, he was neither a relative nor a friend of the purple-gold divine dragon clan. How could he have the opportunity to obtain 3,000 incarnations? Why do you have 3,000 incarnations? Ryuko and Ji Shaoi's faces were also filled with disbelief. The inner demons raised the corners of his mouth and joked, "Do you think these are 3,000 incarnations? If these aren't 3,000 incarnations, then what are they? You actually stole the secret of our purple gold divine dragon clan." Ryuko roared. "Ignorance is terrible." The inner demons shook his head. The waves of blood surged, covering the sky and the sun. There weren't 3,000 blood-clad demon kings standing in the waves of blood. There were only 1,000 of them. However, the aura emitted by these 1,000 blood-clad demon kings was enough to make the galaxy collapse crazily. Boom! The next moment, ultimate profound meanings appeared one after another, and the will of heaven roared out. Not only can these incarnations activate the ultimate profound meanings, but they also have the will of heaven like you. You still say that these aren't 3,000 incarnations? Ryuko roared. Huh, you're indeed an ignorant fool. The inner demon sneered. Those 1,000 blood-clad demon kings had only activated 2,000 ultimate profound meanings. But even so, with the support of the will of heaven, each of these 2,000 ultimate profound meanings could fight one against 6. Rumble. Accompanied by a loud explosion, Ryuko's 9,000 ultimate profound meanings were instantly annihilated in the galaxy. Puff. He spat out a mouthful of blood. Ryuko's eyes trembled. What was going on? A person who had nothing to do with the purple gold divine dragon clan actually had 3,000 incarnations. If Qin Feiyang and Qin Batian had 3,000 incarnations, this was understandable. After all, they were the descendants of the princess of the divine kingdom. But the person in front of them was clearly a human of the divine kingdom. How could the humans of the divine kingdom have obtained their secrets that were not to be passed on? 3,000 incarnations doesn't seem to be a big deal. The inner demons laughed. Bastard! Not only did he steal 3,000 incarnations of the purple gold divine dragon clan, but he also slandered them. Ryuko was burning with anger. Ji Shaoi, kill him with me. Okay. Ji Shaoi nodded. Swoosh! Behind him, 3,000 clones instantly appeared. The inner demons and Lu Jiajin were stunned. This person also had 3,000 incarnations. What was going on? Didn't the purple gold divine dragon race only have the overlord, Heavenly Lord Ji, the dragon prince and boss Ji who had 3,000 incarnations? Boom! As the 3,000 incarnations were activated, the ultimate profound meaning of the law of death appeared. Ji Shaoi had only mastered this ultimate profound meaning. But even so, with 3,000 incarnations, he could still unleash terrifying combat power. Because 3,000 incarnations could increase his combat power by 3,000 times. Ji Shaoi had indeed profited from a disaster. Although he had lost his most powerful battle soul, the Eye of Destiny, the 3,000 incarnations gave him the ability to look down on all the elites of the divine kingdom. Boom! Ryuko activated his ultimate profound meaning again. 12,000 ultimate profundities of supreme laws, carrying with them the power to destroy the heavens and earth, charged toward the inner demon. You're still too naive. The inner demons shook his head. Boom! 1,000 blood-robed demon lords, 6 ultimate profound meanings, and the will of the heavenly way exploded. At this moment, Ryuko and Ji Shaoi couldn't help but feel desperate. Although the other party only had 1,000 incarnations, the 6 ultimate profound meanings and the will of the heavenly way pressed down on them like a mountain. Boom! There was no suspense. This was a situation that could destroy everything in its path. The 12,000 ultimate laws of Ryuko and Ji Shaoi shattered like rotten wood. The 3,000 incarnations were also collapsing. Why? Ryuko roared hysterically. He thought that by inheriting the 3,000 incarnations, he would be able to avenge the humiliation from 1,000 years ago. However, he didn't expect the other party to also have 3,000 incarnations. Not only did he fail to take revenge, but he was also severely humiliated again. You still think that these are 3,000 incarnations? No. Let me tell you now. This is the Demon King's real body. It's a supreme killing technique that I created myself. The inner demons looked at the two of them with disdain. What? Their eyes trembled. The Demon King's real body? A supreme killing technique that he created himself? How was this possible? The Divine King also had a look of disbelief. How powerful must he be to be able to create such a terrifying killing technique? 1,000 years ago, when we came to challenge you, I had already created the Demon King's real body. However, none of you so-called elites had the ability to make me activate the Demon King's real body. But this time, I have a whole new level of respect for you. At least, you can make me use this trump card. The inner demon snickered. Impossible. Don't lie to us. This is obviously 3,000 incarnations. Ji Shaoi shook his head. Sigh. It seems that if I don't let you see the true face of the Demon King's real body, you won't believe it. The inner demons shook his head and sighed. As soon as his voice faded. Behind him, another 2,000 blood-robed Demon Kings appeared. In total, there were a total of 3,000. It was exactly the same as the number of 3,000 incarnations. Moreover, the bodies of these 3,000 blood-robed Demon Kings began to swell with the wind. In just an instant, they turned into giants that were tens of thousands of feet tall. There were even pairs of blood-red wings growing on their backs. There were a total of 9 pairs. 18 blood-red wings. Their faces were still shrouded in blood mist, and their true appearance could not be seen clearly. From afar, it was like an ancient demon god had descended into the world, exuding a terrifying aura. This is the true face of the Demon King's real body. The Divine King murmured. Sure enough, it was not 3,000 incarnations. It was hard to imagine how powerful this person was to be able to comprehend a terrifying killing technique similar to the 3,000 incarnations. It seemed that this was the reason why the Central Dynasty valued him. Because the Demon King's real body was completely capable of competing with the 3,000 incarnations. As long as this person could be brought into the Central Dynasty, then the Central Dynasty would have the means to suppress the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan. The Divine King looked at Lu Jiajin again. The inner demons had such terrifying strength. What about this person? Could it be that he also had the means of 3,000 incarnations and the Demon King's real body? The remaining 2 chapters will be released before 11 o'clock. Chapter 4171. Lu Jiajin noticed the Divine King's gaze, but he didn't show any arrogance or rudeness. He nodded and smiled at the Divine King. Looking at Lu Jiajin's eyes, the Divine King was slightly stunned. This pair of eyes were extremely clear, like a bright mirror, moreover, they were extremely infectious. He could imagine that this was a young man with an extraordinary state of mind. Why wasn't such a person born in the God clan? Whether it was these 2 young men in front of him, or Qin Feiyang and the others, any one of them could be born in the God clan and become the pride of the God clan. Unfortunately, this was all a fantasy. Looking at Ryuko and Ji Shaoi again. Looking at the 3,000 Demon King real bodies behind the inner demons, they were extremely shocked. He could actually create a killing technique as powerful as the 3,000 Demon Kings. They originally thought that no matter how monstrous the other party was, he would at most be on the same level as them. Because in the Divine Kingdom, Ryuko was already a top genius. But they never expected that the other party was a person who could create such a killing technique. One had to know. Even the older generation of the Divine Kingdom, such as the monarch, couldn't create such a killing technique. Compared to this person, how could they be called geniuses? They weren't even idiots. Are you convinced? The inner demons laughed. The two looked at each other and couldn't help but lower their heads. They couldn't face him. Are you ashamed? Do you feel like clowns? The inner demons laughed. The 3,000 demon king real bodies burst out with a terrifying aura. The ultimate meaning and the divine power of the will of heaven surged toward the two. The two trembled and immediately knelt in the void. Their faces were pale, and their eyes were filled with despair. Stop! The divine king saw that the situation was not good and hurried forward to stand in front of the two. Ryuko was the monarch's grandson. Ji Shaoi was also Ji Yunhai's grandson. He couldn't die in the God clan's territory. You want to be a busybody? The inner demons looked at the divine king with bloody eyes. Even the divine king could not help but feel fear in the face of the power of the inner demons. Whether it's the God race, the human race, the purple gold divine dragon race, the beast race, or the sea race, they're all members of the divine kingdom. There's no need to harm each other. The divine king said solemnly. But I am from the central dynasty. In the eyes of the central dynasty, the 5 major races are nothing but ants. The inner demons laughed sinisterly. Various ultimate intents were activated at once. A monstrous might swept through the galaxy. The divine king's expression suddenly changed. He hurriedly pulled Ryuko and the other two away. You're courting death. The inner demons said coldly. The 3,000 demon emperors flapped their bloody wings and charged at the 3 cultivators like a group of deities. The wind howled, and waves of blood filled the sky. It's just a spar, why make such a big fuss? At this moment, accompanied by a majestic voice, a middle-aged man stepped into the galaxy. His monstrous aura shook the starry sky. It was the king. The inner demons turned to look at the king and smirked. You've come at the right time. I've long wanted to experience the king's elegance. As soon as he finished speaking, the 3,000 demon emperors turned in the air and charged at the king with various ultimate intents. What a lawless king! The divine king murmured. They didn't even take the king seriously. I'd also like to see what a prodigy from the central dynasty is capable of. The king took a step forward and activated his 3,000 clones. The ultimate intents of the 7 ultimate intents of the 7 ultimate intents erupted and charged at the 3,000 demon emperors. Boom! A series of loud blasts took place in the area. The terrifying shockwaves of the battle swept in all directions. In the end, the king overwhelmed the 3,000 demon emperors of the inner demons with his advantage in numbers. Because the king had mastered the ultimate intents of the 7 ultimate intents. The inner demons had only activated the ultimate intents of the 6 ultimate intents. This was the advantage in numbers. But the king was also quite surprised. The demon emperors could indeed compete with the 3,000 clones. It seemed that the central dynasty wanted to use this person's demon emperors to suppress the purple gold divine dragon clan. The king is indeed the king. He's far from being comparable to those trash. The inner demon's fighting spirit was also stimulated. He stepped out into the air, bringing with him a monstrous wave of blood as he engaged in an intense battle with the monarch. Rumble. Terrifying shockwaves enveloped the galaxy like raging waves. About a few hundred rounds passed. The inner demons was already dripping with blood. But at this moment, his eyes flashed with killing intent. The king immediately felt a sense of danger and a sense of fear rose in his heart. Stop! But suddenly, a hoarse voice was heard. A white-haired old man descended on the galaxy. It was Yu Lao who led the team from the central dynasty. Looking at the inner demons who were boiling with fighting spirit, Yu Lao said helplessly, "Can't you stop? It's none of your business. If you talk nonsense again, I'll beat you up too, old man. The inner demons snorted. But they also stopped fighting. The 3,000 demon emperors also disappeared. The corner of Yu Lao's mouth twitched. He looked at the king and the divine king and smiled apologetically. I'm sorry, this kid is like this. When he sees a strong person, he wants to learn from them. The two looked at each other and were speechless. Was this called learning from each other? It was clearly a merciless battle to the death. But because of Yu Lao's face, they couldn't say much. Yu Lao looked at the inner demons and said, "Apologize to the king and the divine king." Apologize? With just them? Old man, you must have taken the wrong medicine. Do I look like someone who will apologize? The inner demon sneered arrogantly, opened a space-time passage, and left without looking back. Bastard! Do you know what it means to respect the old and love the young? Yu Lao was so angry that his beard blew and his eyes widened. He looked at Lu Jiajin and said, "Aren't you going to do something about it? Even you can't do anything about it. How can I?" Lu Jiajin smiled helplessly and looked at Yu Lao, the king, and the divine king. He cupped his hands and smiled. "I won't disturb you from catching up. Goodbye." After that, he turned around and stepped into the space-time passage, leaving with the inner demons. The corner of Yu Lao's mouth kept twitching. These two youngsters were indeed outstanding. However, their personalities were too unruly. "I'm really sorry." He looked at the divine king and smiled apologetically again. "It's okay. It's normal for young people to be arrogant. Besides, they do have the right to be arrogant." The king waved his hand. The 3,000 clones also dissipated. "Lord Ruler, you're right. The king is righteous." Elder Yu smiled faintly. "I'm sorry. I still have a lot to learn in front of you." The king waved his hand. He knew a little about this old man. He was a figure of the same era as Boss Ji and the other old men. So, he was really a junior in front of this person. Don't be so humble. The position of the king is not something that ordinary people can take up. Yu Lao smiled hoarsely and asked, "How is your father?" "Thank you for your concern. My father is very good." The king smiled. "All right. When I have time, I'll go to the ancestral land of the purple gold divine dragons. It'll be a revisit." Yu Lao smiled. "You're welcome at any time." The king smiled. Yu Lao smiled and looked at the king and the divine king. He said, "Also, inform the supreme of the human race to go to the Dragon God Mountain in 3 days. I have something to discuss with him." "Okay." The two nodded. After Yu Lao left, the king immediately looked at Ryuko and the divine king and said angrily, "You're asking to be humiliated. Go back immediately and reflect on your mistakes." The two felt wronged. Who knew that this person had a trump card that was not inferior to the 3,000 clones? But in the face of the king's reproach, they did not dare to say anything. They lowered their heads and left. You can't blame them. Even if they didn't come today, those two would have killed their way to the purple gold divine dragon clan tomorrow. The divine king looked at the backs of Ryuko and the divine king and smiled at the king. "I know. But I just feel like I'm disappointed." The king said angrily. "I agree." The divine king smiled bitterly. If it was Qin Feiyang, how could he let those two be so arrogant? But then again, that blood-red-clothed youth is really something. If not for Yu Lao's appearance, I'm afraid that even I would have died in his hands. The king frowned. "No way." The divine king was shocked. Before Yu Lao appeared, I felt a dangerous aura from him. That feeling was very real. So I guess that he's hiding some trump card. The king said in a deep voice. The divine king's pupils shrank. What kind of monster was this? The king took a deep breath and said, what do you think about going to Dragon God Mountain in 3 days? Do you even need to think about it? You just want to be a peacemaker and resolve the grudge between us and the Dragon God. The Divine King pouted. These people from the Central Dynasty really liked to meddle in other people's business. From this matter, it seems that the Oceanic race and the Beast race are really the ruler's trusted aides. If it were us 3 races, the Central Dynasty would definitely not be so proactive. The king snorted discontentedly. So, our decision back then was correct. This ruler is no longer worthy of our lives. The Divine King's eyes flashed coldly. As the ruler of the Divine Kingdom, I don't want you to be fair, but you can't be too biased either. If you did that, where would the God race, the human race, and the purple gold divine dragon clan stand? Were they really treating the 3 major races as cannon fodder? Chapter 4172. Wait. Should we talk to Qin Feiyang about this? Tell him to make some arrangements. The Divine King transmitted his voice. What do you mean? The monarch looked at the Divine King suspiciously. The Divine King's eyes flashed with killing intent. If the Central Dynasty's prodigy dies in the hands of the Dragon God, do you think Yu Lao will still help the Dragon God? The monarch was shocked to hear this. He didn't expect the Divine King to have such a crazy idea. But if that was the case, not only would the Central Dynasty not help the Dragon God, but they would also attack the Dragon God. In this way, they could use the Central Dynasty to get rid of the Dragon God. You don't say. The more I think about it, the more I think it's feasible. The Divine King said. Okay. I'll go talk to Qin Feiyang. The monarch nodded. Be careful. Now that the Central Dynasty is here, there's no need for any accidents. The Divine King reminded him. I know. The monarch smiled. If he couldn't handle this well, wouldn't he have been a monarch for so many years in vain? In the village. Qin Feiyang and the other 2 were in seclusion in the back mountain tea garden. Master Ji Jiao didn't dare to leave the tea garden. He was on tenterhooks every day, afraid that he would lose a few tea trees if he wasn't careful. Whoosh! The monarch arrived at the tea garden and looked at Master Ji Jiao, who was sitting alone at the tea table with an irritated expression. Master Ji Jiao, you seem to be in a good mood. How can you tell that I'm in a good mood? Master Ji Jiao raised an eyebrow. Ha, the monarch couldn't help but laugh. Master Ji Jiao stared at him and frowned. You came here for something? Yes. I want to discuss something with Qin Feiyang. The monarch nodded. Master Ji Jiao rolled his eyes and asked with a smile, Little Wang, how does Master Ji Jiao usually treat you? The monarch looked at Master Ji Jiao warily. Answer me. Master Ji Jiao glared at him. That goes without saying. He's definitely very good to me. If it weren't for your careful guidance, I wouldn't have my current achievements and status. The monarch quickly put on a flattering smile. Not bad, not bad. Do you still remember how well I treated you? Master Ji Jiao nodded with a smile. Just say what you want to say. Don't beat around the bush. The king smiled bitterly. Such a courteous attitude really made him uncomfortable. All right. Then this old man will say it directly. Do me a favor and get Qin Feiyang and Long Chen out of here. Ji Jiao said. Ugh. The monarch was startled and asked suspiciously, did they do something wrong? No. Ji Jiao shook his head. Then how dare you let them go? The monarch was puzzled. Aren't you asking the obvious? With them here, can this old man still enjoy life in peace? This old man heard from Dong Zhengyang that Long Chen is also a person who loves tea as much as his life. Qin Feiyang alone is already a headache for this old man. With Long Chen here, can this old man still feel at ease? Master Ji Jiao rubbed his forehead. In the past 2 days, he had thought of many ways, but Qin Feiyang and Long Chen refused to leave. They wanted to stay here, so he asked the monarch for help. Looking at Master Ji Jiu's irritated look, the monarch's face flushed red. Still laughing? Master Ji Jiu glared at him fiercely. No, no. I just feel that it's just a little tea tree. Just be generous and give them some. When the time comes, you don't need to say anything. They will leave by themselves. The monarch laughed. In your dreams. Master Ji Jiu snorted and glared at the monarch. I think you are also an unreliable person. Forget it, this old man will think of a way myself. The monarch smiled helplessly, turned his head to look at the wooden building, and shouted, Qin Feiyang, come out. I have something to discuss with you. After a while, Qin Feiyang and the other two walked out of the wooden building. They were in good spirits. That was especially true of Qin Feiyang and Long Chen. To them, this place was like heaven. Master Ji Jiu, Your Majesty. Qin Feiyang waved to the two from afar and greeted them. Annoying. Master Ji Jiu turned his head and looked away. Qin Feiyang, Long Chen, and Dong Zhengyang looked at each other and walked over with a smile. Good tea. Looking at the teapot on the tea table, Qin Feiyang's eyes lit up. He poured a cup of tea without hesitation and tasted it comfortably. Boy, do you still know how to be polite? Master Ji Jiu frowned. Did he ask for his permission? Great-grandfather, we are family. Why are you being so polite? Qin Feiyang smiled and acted like a dead pig that was not afraid of boiling water, which made Master Ji Jiu quite depressed. It was better to be polite. It was actually good to be an outsider. Long Chen poured a cup of tea for himself and drank it with a face full of enjoyment. Then he looked at the monarch and asked, Your Majesty, what can I do for you? First of all, there is a news that I think it is necessary to tell you. It is about the two mysterious young men. The monarch's face immediately became serious. Mysterious young men. Dong Zhengyang was stunned and asked, Are they the two masked geniuses from the Central Dynasty? Yes. The monarch nodded. Qin Feiyang and the other two looked at each other. Why were the top 10 geniuses from the Central Dynasty talking about the inner demons and Lu Jiejin? These two are not simple. Especially that young man in red. Yesterday, he went to Mount Supreme and severely injured the human race's geniuses. Then, they came to the Island of Gods and crushed the God race's geniuses. They even fought with Ji Shaoi and Ryuko. The monarch said. What? Fought with Ryuko and Ji Shaoi? Qin Feiyang and the other two frowned. They naturally knew about Ryuko and Ji Shaoi's situation. They both controlled 3,000 incarnations and were not to be underestimated. As for the inner demons and Lu Jiejin, although they did not know their strength, they were afraid that they would be at a disadvantage when facing 3,000 incarnations. The monarch asked, You must be thinking that they would be at a disadvantage when facing Ryuko and Ji Shaoi, right? The three nodded. But it is the opposite. Ryuko and Ji Shaoi were completely crushed by them. No, they were crushed by the young man in red. The other person did not make a move from the beginning to the end. The monarch said in a deep voice. What? Qin Feiyang and the other two's faces were full of shock. The inner demons were now so powerful. They could even suppress 3,000 incarnations. One had to know. It was not just one person, but both Ryuko and Ji Shaoi. Both of them had 3,000 incarnations. How powerful would they be if they attacked together? You must be surprised. What is more surprising is that the young man in red created a killing technique called the Demon King's True Body. It is similar to the 3,000 incarnations. Moreover, he has mastered the ultimate profundities of the 6 supreme laws and integrated with the will of the heavenly path. The monarch said. Qin Feiyang and the other two could not help but gasp when they heard this. The Demon King's true body. The will of the heavenly path. This heart demon was too overbearing, wasn't it? Master Ji Jiao was also shocked. There was such a genius in the world. I have also fought with him. To be honest, I am not confident that I can defeat him. The monarch smiled bitterly. The three's faces stiffened. Even the monarch was not confident in facing the inner demons. Just how did this guy cultivate? Their growth was already fast enough, but they did not expect the inner demons to grow even faster. So, you must be mentally prepared. After all, this is a powerful enemy you are about to face. The monarch reminded. Got it. Qin Feiyang nodded. The monarch continued, the divine king and I are thinking about another thing. Should we arrange for the dragon god? What do you mean? The three were stunned. The monarch clearly expressed the divine king's intention. The three looked at each other. This move was a little vicious. They did not want to give the dragon god a chance to turn the tables. What do you think? The monarch asked. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and turned to look at Long Chen. Long Chen shook his head and said, the plan is not bad, but it is not that easy to carry it out. First, it depends on the central dynasty's trust in the dragon god. If the central dynasty really trusts the dragon god, it will be useless no matter how we instigate. I think so too. Qin Feiyang nodded. Secondly, the dragon god. Killing the central dynasty's geniuses is easy. But it is a little difficult to frame the dragon god. Because for this kind of thing, we must let Yu Lao see the dragon god attack the central dynasty's geniuses with his own eyes. If the dragon god does not have the origin force, then it is still fine. I can completely control him. But in the current situation, none of us can defeat the dragon god, let alone control him. Long Chen shook his head. Then what if we let the dragon god's beast god attack? The monarch asked. That is even more meaningless. Although I can control the beast god, if the beast god attacks and kills the central dynasty's geniuses, then the one who is unlucky is the beast god, not the dragon god. Because even if we want to frame the dragon god, he can completely deny it. Long Chen said. Makes sense. The monarch nodded and shook his head. It seems that this plan will not work. Not necessarily. Long Chen chuckled. The monarch looked at Long Chen again. Long Chen turned to Qin Feiyang and said with a smile, Brother Qin, if this plan is to succeed, we will have to rely on you. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled bitterly. It seems that you have understood what I mean. Long Chen smiled. Understood. But it feels too troublesome to do this. And now that the central dynasty's people have arrived, there are bound to be many variables. Qin Feiyang said worriedly. Chapter 4173. It's indeed troublesome. Besides, if we really succeed, the dragon god will become very valuable to us. It's a bit of a waste to sacrifice him like this. Long Chen thought to himself as he drank his tea. That's right. Instead of letting him be sacrificed, it's better to use him for us. With his strength and the entire beast race, we will definitely be able to destroy the central dynasty. Qin Feiyang nodded. That makes sense. The central dynasty must be destroyed before the ruler of the divine kingdom returns. Otherwise, they will definitely become our hindrance in the future. Long Chen smiled slightly. The two of them had a tacit understanding and basically thought of the same thing. However, the monarch and Master Ji Jiao were confused. What the hell was he talking about? They didn't understand at all. Dong Xingyang thought for a while and couldn't help but smile, but he didn't interrupt and just drank his tea. It wasn't that the monarch and Master Ji Jiao weren't as smart as Dong Xingyang. The monarch and Master Ji Jiao couldn't figure it out because they didn't know Qin Feiyang as well as Dong Xingyang. Hey, hey, hey. Can you two stop talking in riddles? Master Ji Jiao couldn't stand it anymore and said with a dark face. Qin Feiyang and Master Ji Jiao were stunned. They looked up at the confused monarch and the angry Master Ji Jiao and couldn't help but smile at each other. What are you laughing at? Master Ji Jiao glared at them. Okay, okay. Qin Feiyang quickly waved his hand and said with a smile, Great-grandfather, we're actually talking about Neptune's origin energy. Origin energy. The monarch and Master Ji Jiao looked at each other and immediately became interested. The reason why Neptune and the dragon god were feared by everyone was because of the origin energy in their hands. If they could destroy these two origin energies, even the purple gold divine dragon race alone would be enough to overturn the sea race and the beast race, let alone the three races. Didn't we kidnap millions of members of the oceanic tribe some time ago? The various sea gods and 2/3 of the core members of the sea gods island? Qin Feiyang smiled. Yes. Ji Jiao nodded. Qin Feiyang said, my goal is to use these sea tribe members to exchange for the source energy in Neptune's hands. So that's what happened. The monarch nodded. Suddenly, he frowned and asked, you didn't kill those sea tribe members? Not a single one. But now that they're alive, it's more painful than death. Qin Feiyang smiled. Are you torturing them? Is that necessary? Childish. Master Ji Jiao said in disdain. You're wrong. We didn't torture them at all. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. If you didn't torture them, then why are they suffering more pain than death? This made Ji Jiao a little confused. Qin Feiyang and the other two looked at each other and smiled. Then, they looked at Ji Jiao and said, anyway, they want to die now. As for the reason, let's keep them in suspense. Ji Jiao immediately rolled his eyes. Qin Feiyang smiled and continued, if we can really get the source energy in Neptune's hands, then why should we be afraid of a mere dragon god? That's true. The dragon god's greatest reliance is the power of origin, said Yi Futian. The monarch nodded. So, as long as Neptune's source energy falls into our hands, then we can defeat the dragon god and control him. In this way, not to mention killing the central dynasty's prodigies in front of Yu Lao, even if we ask him to attack Yu Lao, he won't frown. But, then again, if the dragon god is really controlled by us, then with his strength, he can become our right-hand man. Why should we send him to his death? Qin Feiyang smiled. The monarch and Ji Jiao looked at each other. Now that he thought about it, it did make some sense. If they could really control the dragon god, then the dragon god would become one of them. If they still sent him to his death, wouldn't it be a waste of a talent? After pondering for a while, the monarch looked at Qin Feiyang and Ji Jiao and frowned. Listening to what you said, there's no need for us to scheme against the dragon god now. Of course not. No one knows the future situation. But now, what we need to do is to find a way to get the source energy in Neptune's hands. In short, whether it's to control the dragon god for our use or to set up a trap to kill the dragon god, the first prerequisite is to get this source energy. Otherwise, we can't do anything. Long Chen explained. The source energy, the monarch pondered for a while, looked up at the two, and smiled. We can't help with this matter. You have to plan it yourselves. Qin Feiyang looked at the smile on the monarch's face and said helplessly, are you planning to be a hands-off boss? What are you talking about? Do you think I want to be a hands-off boss? Do you think I don't want to contribute? But there's no other way. The situation forces us. The monarch looked at Qin Feiyang angrily, but the smile on his face was undisguised. Qin Feiyang and the other two looked at each other and couldn't help but despise him. If he didn't want to, then he didn't want to. Why did he have to find a lot of excuses? Sigh. Is it really good to be so hypocritical? Ahem. Ji Jiu coughed dryly, looked at Qin Feiyang and Long Chen, and said, since you have something important to do, then hurry up and do it. Don't waste time here. Do we have something important to do? Qin Feiyang looked at Long Chen and asked. No. Long Chen shook his head. No, no. Didn't you say it yourself just now? You want to go to Neptune and ask for the source energy? Ji Jiu frowned. That's what you're talking about. Qin Feiyang smiled and shook his head. There's no hurry. We'll deal with it slowly after we come out of seclusion. Don't. We have to strike while the iron is hot. If you don't make a move now, Neptune will wait too long. When the time comes, he might not care about the Sea clan in your hands. Ji Jiu hurriedly said. That makes sense. Qin Feiyang nodded. That's right. When a man does something, he has to be decisive. Ji Jiu chuckled. Finally, he was about to send these two boys away. But suddenly, Qin Feiyang shook his head again and said, after thinking about it, there's no need to be so anxious. I think so too. Even if Neptune doesn't care about the millions of Sea clan members, how can he not care about the hundreds of thousands of core members of the Sea Gods Island and the 20 Sea Gods? We'll plan this slowly after we come out of seclusion. Long Chen nodded with a smile. Ji Jiu's face suddenly darkened again. They really wanted to rely on him. Ji Jiu, isn't their purpose obvious? Let me tell you, if you don't want to pluck their feathers, they will definitely use all kinds of excuses to stay with you. The monarch transmitted his voice. Do you think I'm stupid? How can I not see what they're thinking? But they want me to pluck their feathers. No way. Ji Jiu snorted. Fine. Just pretend I didn't say anything. You can think of a way yourself. I still have a lot of things to deal with, so I won't waste time with you guys. Goodbye. After saying that, the monarch got up and looked at Qin Feiyang and the other two, saying, then you guys take your time to plan. I'll go back first. Take care. Come and play often in the future. Qin Feiyang waved his hand. Ji Jiu raised his eyebrows. Judging from his attitude and tone, did this kid already regard him as the owner of this place? Great-grandfather, shall we go into seclusion? After the monarch left, Qin Feiyang also put down his teacup, got up, and looked at Ji Jiu with a smile. Ji Jiu didn't say anything with a dark face. Let's go. Qin Feiyang smiled at Long Chen, then turned and walked toward the wooden building. 1. Suddenly, Ji Jiu's voice sounded. Huh? Qin Feiyang and Long Chen were taken aback. They turned to look at Ji Jiu suspiciously and asked, are you talking to us? If I'm not talking to you, am I talking to a ghost? Ji Jiu roared, took a few deep breaths, suppressed the anger in his heart, and said with a cold face, there is only one tea tree of each kind, and this is the last time. Qin Feiyang and Long Chen looked at each other. Is this true? Did they hear it wrong? Ji Jiu said angrily, do you want me to dig it out personally and send it to you? Qin Feiyang came to his senses and quickly waved his hand, saying, no, no, we'll do it ourselves. How dare we trouble you to do it yourself? After saying that, he grabbed Long Chen and urged, don't just stand there, hurry up. Okay, okay. Long Chen nodded repeatedly. Why did it feel like a dream? So. The two of them excitedly swept through the tea garden. Can you be gentler? Don't hurt the roots. Hey, 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 be careful. Don't hurt the tea trees next to you. Yes, 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 be gentle. Ji Jiu looked at them with heartache. Dong Xingyang stood aside obediently with a hint of a smile in his eyes. How could this escape Ji Jiu's eyes? His face darkened, and he said angrily, is it your bad idea? Huh? Dong Xingyang looked at Ji Jiao with a puzzled face. Don't play dumb with me. Among the three of you, only you know me better. Pestering her relentlessly. I can't believe you can think of such a shameless method. Ji Jiao snorted coldly. No, no. I owe you a debt of gratitude for recognizing my worth and nurturing me. How could I possibly instigate them to do that? Dong Zhengyang hurriedly shook his head. Pretend, continue to pretend. It's a waste of your talents if you don't act. Ji Jiao's face was full of disdain. Ha, Dong Zhengyang laughed dryly. The older the ginger, the spicier it was. Nothing could escape this old man's eyes. Finally, Qin Feiyang and Long Chen finished sweeping. There was one of each variety, so there were 20 of them. Are you satisfied now? Ji Jiao glared at the two of them. Looking at the pits in the tea garden, his heart was bleeding. Thank you, great-grandfather. Great-grandfather is the most generous. Qin Feiyang bared his teeth and whispered, Brother Long, quickly put them away. Otherwise, when the old master regrets it, our efforts will be in vain. Long Chen was stunned. He looked at Ji Jiao and asked, You're giving them all to me? Otherwise? This time, I asked for them especially for you. Of course, if you want to be polite, then we'll split them in half. Qin Feiyang smiled flatteringly at the old master while muttering to Long Chen in a low voice. Who's being polite with you? Long Chen rolled his eyes and waved his hand, and all 20 tea trees disappeared in an instant. Chapter 4174. Are you satisfied now? You can get lost now. Ji Jiao's face was dark, and he was in a bad mood. This, Qin Feiyang stammered. But before he could finish, Master Ji Jiao pointed at the foot of the mountain and roared, Disappear immediately, immediately. Okay, okay. We'll visit you again when we're free. Qin Feiyang quickly nodded and dragged Long Chen away. Visit me again? The corner of Ji Jiao's mouth twitched. He'd better not come again. Otherwise, this tea garden would be destroyed sooner or later. He took away 60 of his tea trees in 2 visits. It was simply asking for his life. Take it easy, Jiao. If you don't get rid of the old, the new won't come. Dong Xingyang comforted him. Then go and find some new tea trees for me. Ji Jiao glared at him fiercely. It was easy for him to say that. It's really not your tea trees. Don't you feel bad? Dong Xingyang smiled embarrassedly. Which tea lover didn't treat the divine tea tree as a treasure? Where could he find it? But then again, Ji Jiao lowered his head and pondered for a while. He frowned and said, Why is Qin Feiyang so good to Long Chen? For Long Chen's sake, you shamelessly came to pester me? Is their relationship even better than his relationship with the madman? That's not it. Qin Feiyang's relationship with the madman and the white-eyed wolf is the best. Because they have gone through life and death together. As for Long Chen, Dong Xingyang was silent for a moment and sighed. Actually, the relationship between Long Chen and them wasn't good in the past. What do you mean? Ji Jiao was suspicious. Long Chen is a member of the dragons of the ancient world. Once, the dragons of the ancient world, Long Chen's mother, had always wanted to snatch Qin Feiyang and Qin Beishan's purple gold dragon blood. It was also because of this that the two sides began to fight to the death. In the end, the dragons were exterminated by Qin Feiyang and the lunatic, leaving only Long Zun and Long Chen. Dong Xingyang sighed. Extermination. Ji Jiao's face was full of shock as he asked, Why are they still so friendly when they have the enmity of exterminating their clan? Although Long Zun's personality is not good, Long Chen's personality is very good. He's an open and above-board person. When they fought in the ancient world, Qin Feiyang and the mad scientist admired Long Chen very much. Afterwards, they entered the sky cloud realm one after another. In the beginning, the conflict also became more and more intense. Long Chen's father is an almighty. He ordered the dragons of the sky cloud realm to attack Qin Feiyang. He also ordered 2 sovereign divine weapons to assassinate Qin Feiyang repeatedly. You should be able to imagine how dangerous it is for a person who hasn't stepped into the sovereign realm to face the assassination of 2 sovereign divine weapons at any time. However, Qin Feiyang relied on his companions and the support of countless creatures in the Black Tortoise realm to survive the calamities and become the #1 person in the sky cloud realm. Dong Xingyang smiled. Then it's really not easy for him. Ji Jiu shook his head. It was not difficult to imagine how desperate it was for a person who didn't even have the cultivation of a sovereign realm to face 2 sovereign divine weapons. Later, Long Chen's father didn't interfere anymore. Because of this, Qin Feiyang was able to get some time to breathe. But during this period, Long Chen didn't make a move. Even when he was being chased by the Feng people, Long Chen even saved him. Because in Long Chen's eyes, the root cause of the destruction of the dragons in the ancient realm wasn't Qin Feiyang, but his mother. Because his mother, Long Zun, was very unfriendly to the creatures in the ancient realm. There was also Qin Badian. He was the first person to fight against the dragons. And in the ancient realm, he even established the Dragon Slayer Palace in order to destroy the dragons and return peace to the ancient realm. Therefore, Long Chen's hatred for Qin Feiyang wasn't that strong. However, they really reconciled with each other thanks to the Divine Kingdom. Dong Xingyang smiled. Thanks to us. Ji Jiu was stunned. Yes. The invasion of the Divine Kingdom made them temporarily put aside their grudges. Because at that time, only they could contend with the people of the Divine Kingdom in the sky cloud realm. Dong Xingyang smiled. So that's how it is. Ji Jiu nodded and said with a smile, this means that they are very responsible people. That's true. Whether it's Qin Feiyang or Long Chen, they both have benevolent hearts. At the beginning, joining forces to fight against the geniuses of the Divine Kingdom was just the beginning. The people who really made them put aside their grudges were actually the monarch, the Divine King, and the sovereign of the human race, Lord Ji. Dong Xingyang said with a smile. What do you mean? Ji Jiu was curious. At that time, Qin Feiyang comprehended the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death, so he had to face the terrifying heavenly tribulation. At the same time, the monarch and the others came in person, which undoubtedly made things worse. Long Chen knew that if Qin Feiyang really died in the hands of the monarch and the others, the sky cloud realm would definitely fall. So, not only did he sacrifice himself to protect Qin Feiyang, but he also let his sister, Long Qin, join the battle. The battle with the monarch and the others was quite tragic. But because of this, they really put aside their grudges and became close friends who would go through life and death together. Dong Xingyang smiled slightly. So, they have to thank the monarch and the others? Ji Jiu was stunned. More or less. As for Qin Feiyang coming here shamelessly to help Long Chen ask for the tea tree, that's because Long Chen helped him a lot. Dong Xingyang said with a smile. What help? Ji Jiu was surprised. For Qin Feiyang to put down his face like this, it was definitely not a small matter. This, if they don't say, this junior can't reveal it. Dong Xingyang smiled embarrassedly. Do you believe that I won't teach you a lesson? Ji Jiu's face darkened. Even if you teach me a lesson, I can't say anything. Because this matter is too important. It can be said that it concerns the fate of all the companions around us. And, if Long Chen's ability is known by the Sea Clan, the Beast Clan, and the Central Dynasty, then these 3 forces will definitely hunt Long Chen down at all costs. Now, everyone hasn't completely grown up yet, so we can't afford such a risk. Dong Xingyang said. Ji Jiu's heart trembled. What kind of ability could have such a great influence? You can say that. Whether we can fight the Sea clan, the Beast clan, and the Central Dynasty depends on Long Chen. Dong Jingyang said with a smile. Ji Jiao took a breath, and the curiosity in his heart grew stronger. Suddenly, he was stunned and asked suspiciously, "You just said that Long Chen's father is a mighty figure?" "Yes." Dong Jingyang nodded. "What kind of existence?" Ji Jiao was a little incredulous. Dong Jingyang's strength was not bad, and he had the eye of destiny. How powerful must he be to become a mighty figure in his eyes? This, Dong Jingyang smiled and said, "It's not convenient to say." Ji Jiao was extremely angry. It was not convenient to say anything. Was it that exaggerated? It's really inconvenient. Anyway, if we anger this mighty figure, none of us will have a good ending, including Qin Feiyang now. This was not Dong Jingyang's alarmist words. Although Qin Feiyang's current strength was very strong, he might not be able to fight against Ice Dragon. No way. Ji Jiao's scalp tingled when he heard this. In terms of personal strength, Qin Feiyang was now above this group of old antiques, but he couldn't beat Long Chen's father. What kind of existence was this? So, I want to say that you didn't lose out by giving Long Chen these 20 tea trees today. Because in the future, you might have unexpected gains in exchange. Dong Jingyang smiled slightly. All right. I originally thought that I was knowledgeable, but after hearing what you said today, I feel like a frog at the bottom of a well. Ji Jiao smiled bitterly. You don't have to be like this. In terms of knowledge, juniors like us can't compare to you. Dong Jingyang smiled and comforted him. At the same time, in the sky above a mountain, Qin Feiyang and Long Chen ran out of the space-time passage with smiles on their faces. How was it? Are you satisfied now? Qin Feiyang turned to look at Long Chen and smiled. It's okay. Long Chen nodded. This is called okay. Do you know that for you, I don't even care about my face? Qin Feiyang said angrily. Huh, Long Chen laughed heartily and patted Qin Feiyang's shoulder, saying, okay, I thank you. That's more like it. Qin Feiyang smiled with satisfaction, pondered for a moment, and said, then hurry up and go into seclusion. To be honest, without the help of you and senior brother, I'm still under a lot of pressure. Then are you going to negotiate with Neptune directly now? Long Chen frowned. Qin Feiyang thought for a moment and said with a smile, I've already mastered 2 wills of the heavenly Tao, so I'm not in a hurry to comprehend other laws. I'll go and meet Neptune alone first. Then be careful. If you really can't, just wait for us to come out. At that time, with the help of the demon ancestor and Mu Tianyang, it will be easier to deal with Neptune and the others. Long Chen smiled faintly. Qin Feiyang nodded. To be honest, he was really looking forward to the demon ancestor and the others coming out of seclusion. Because whether it was the demon ancestor or Mu Tianyang, they all had extremely terrifying methods and brains. When they all came out of seclusion and joined hands, there was probably nothing they couldn't do. Alright, send me to the Black Tortoise realm. I still have to deal with those tea trees first. Long Chen said with a smile. Qin Feiyang pursed his lips, and was about to send Long Chen to the Black Tortoise realm, when he suddenly thought of something, and frowned, say, the inner demons and big cousin, running to challenge the people of the 3 great races, do they have anything to do with us? Then how would I know? Long Chen smiled helplessly. It wasn't like he was a roundworm in the stomach of the inner demons and Lu Jiajin. Besides, he didn't understand the inner demons and Lu Jiajin at all. He hadn't even seen them with his own eyes. Because when the inner demons and Lu Jiajin disappeared, Qin Feiyang and the others had yet to enter the ancient realm. I personally think so. This time, the inner demons and big cousin went to the 3 great races, it should be because of us. Because the grudge between us and the three great races is no longer a secret. The inner demons and big cousin can casually ask around, so they went to the three great races to kill them. And among the three great races, the biggest threat is undoubtedly the purple gold divine dragon clan, so when they fought with Ryuko and Ji Shaoi, they wanted to kill them. Qin Feiyang analyzed. Chapter 4175. Maybe. Long Chen nodded. As close relatives, knowing that Qin Feiyang was bullied by the three major races, it was not impossible that the inner demons and Lu Jiajin would help to vent their anger. This is what I am worried about. Now the inner demons and big cousin still don't know that we have formed an alliance with the three major races. What if they find a chance to kill the three major races again? Because Qin Feiyang knew the inner demons' character too well. They had always done whatever they wanted. Don't worry about this. They are now members of the Divine Kingdom. Even if they want to kill the three major races, the Central Dynasty will not allow it. Otherwise, when the inner demons were on the island of the gods and prepared to kill the monarch, Yu Lao would not have stopped them. Long Chen comforted him. That makes sense. Qin Feiyang nodded. After pondering for a while, he said, but for the sake of safety, we should still find a chance to meet them and tell them about our alliance with the three major races, lest they hurt our own people. Don't. Long Chen hurriedly stopped him. What do you mean? Qin Feiyang looked at him suspiciously. When we were in the restaurant, they did not even respond to our voice transmission. This means that they might be worried about something. So I suggest that we should not take the initiative to look for them. We should wait for them to come to us. Long Chen said. What exactly are they worried about? Qin Feiyang could not help but frown. Maybe their current situation is not as good as what we see. Long Chen whispered. You mean that someone is watching them? Qin Feiyang was surprised. Who knows? But for people like them with unknown origins and terrifying strength, if I were the Central Dynasty's people, I would also be worried. Long Chen shook his head. Qin Feiyang touched his chin thoughtfully. Suddenly, he smiled and said, no matter how suspicious the people of the Central Dynasty are, they won't suspect that Inner Demon and Big Cousin are acquainted with us. How so? Long Chen asked with a smile. Because they appeared in the Divine Kingdom 1,000 years ago. At that time, the Divine Kingdom hadn't invaded the Sky Cloud realm yet. Therefore, the people of the Central Dynasty naturally believed that the Inner Demons and Big Cousin were from the Divine Kingdom. Qin Feiyang smiled. That's right. As long as their identities are handled properly, they will never be exposed. As for the ability to conceal their identities, I believe they still have it. Without this ability, the Inner Demons and Lu Jiajin would have been exposed long ago in the Divine Kingdom. But to be honest, I'm really itching for a fight with the Inner Demons. Let's see if he's stronger, or if I'm stronger. Qin Feiyang laughed. You are the same person. Is it necessary? Long Chen was speechless. Wrong. After he passed the tribulation, he became an independent consciousness. So I am me, and he is him. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Whatever. Long Chen shrugged. He then looked at the horizon, a trace of sadness in his eyes. What's wrong? Qin Feiyang looked at him suspiciously. The appearance of the Inner Demons reminded me of him. Long Chen sighed. Him. Qin Feiyang was stunned. Which him? Suddenly, he showed a look of realization. This him was actually another Long Chen. The former Long Chen was the same as Qin Feiyang. However, Long Chen was not the Inner Demons, but the Divine Soul. Back then, Long Chen had two Divine Souls. One was the Ice Dragon Soul, and the other was the Sky Dragon Soul. The Sky Dragon Soul had a gentle personality and was open-minded. The ice dragon's soul was similar to the inner demons. It was cruel and unscrupulous. These two souls each had their own independent consciousness. But later, the battle between the dragons and the dragon-slaying palace broke out. Long Chen fought with Qin Feiyang and Lunatic. At that time, it was not a match for Qin Feiyang and Lunatic. The ice dragon's soul gave up on itself and merged with the sky dragon's soul. So, the two divine souls merged into one, which was the current Long Chen. After the fusion, the ice dragon's soul completely disappeared. It was because of this that Long Chen could understand Qin Feiyang's sadness when he learned about the death of the inner demons. Because the way he got along with the ice dragon's soul was the same as Qin Feiyang and the inner demons. They were as close as brothers. But now, Qin Feiyang's inner demons appeared. And became the pride of the central dynasty. Everyone was watching. But his ice dragon soul had disappeared forever. Some things could be forgotten, but some people, some things, had been imprinted in the depths of the soul and could never be forgotten. Qin Feiyang was silent for a long time, then sighed, "I'm very sorry about this matter. However, although you have lost the ice dragon soul, you still have us. We are all your brothers." Long Chen looked at Qin Feiyang, shook his head and smiled, "I didn't expect you to be such a mushy person. Aren't I comforting you?" Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes. "Thank you." Long Chen smiled, collected his thoughts, and said, "Go do your thing." "Okay." Qin Feiyang nodded. With a wave of his hand, Long Chen disappeared without a trace. Sigh. How good would it be if the incident in the ancient realm didn't happen? Qin Feiyang looked at the sky alone for a long time. In the end, all the helplessness and regret in his heart turned into a sigh. "See clan. I say, you two, what's going on?" As soon as you arrived at the 4 great continents, you ran to the 3 major races to mess around? In a hall. Yu Lao stared at the inner demons and Lu Jiajin below. Neptune accompanied by the side. However, the inner demons half reclined on the chair, crossing his legs, holding a wine jar in his hand, exuding an intoxicating fragrance. He didn't listen to Yu Lao's lecture at all. As for Lu Jiajin, he also crossed his arms, leaned against the chair, and closed his eyes to rest. "I'm talking to you." Yu Lao slapped the armrest of the chair and said angrily. "I'm listening. If you want to scold, then hurry up." The inner demons waved impatiently. Yu Lao's face was full of anger. Neptune looked at the side with fear and trepidation. These 2 young people were really arrogant. They didn't take Yu Lao seriously at all. Swish. At this time, Lu Jiajin opened his eyes and 2 rays of light burst out. Although they couldn't see his expression, at this moment, whether it was Neptune or Yu Lao, they could feel a dangerous aura. His eyes were like 2 sharp swords, containing an amazing sharpness. "Hey! Someone is starting to get irritated. Old man, are you sure you want to continue?" The inner demons looked at Yu Lao playfully. Yu Lao clenched his hands and stared at the inner demons and Lu Jiajin. There was a trace of gloominess in his eyes, and even an invisible pressure. However, whether it was Lu Jiajin or the inner demons, they didn't seem to feel it. Lu Jiajin's eyes didn't evade. The atmosphere in the hall gradually became serious. Neptune's forehead couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. This atmosphere was simply suffocating. Don't take yourself too seriously. After a long time, Lu Jiajin opened his mouth and said lightly. Then he turned and walked out of the hall without looking back. Did you hear that? Don't take yourself too seriously. The inner demons got up and smiled at Yu Lao. They also took the wine jar and walked away arrogantly. After the 2 left, the atmosphere in the hall eased. Neptune couldn't help but wipe his cold sweat. Yu Lao's face was gloomy. He suddenly slapped the armrest and roared in exasperation, "Bastard, you have no respect for your elders." Neptune was shocked. He glanced at Yu Lao. It was the first time he saw someone who dared to be so arrogant in front of this old man. And it was two juniors. A moment later, Yu Lao took a deep breath and looked at Neptune. "Sorry for making a fool of myself." "No, no." Neptune hurriedly waved his hands. "I really don't know whether it was right or wrong to bring them out." Yu Lao shook his head and sighed. This, Neptune pondered for a while and said, "Their strength is stronger than other geniuses. I'm afraid we really need them to deal with Qin Feiyang. But their personalities, don't mention their personalities. I get angry at the mention of it." Yu Lao snorted coldly. "There's nothing we can do about it. Who asked them to be so monstrous? They have the right to be arrogant. You're a person of virtue and prestige. Be more open-minded and don't bicker with two juniors." Neptune comforted. "If I really wanted to bicker with them, I'm afraid I would have died of anger." Yu Lao sighed helplessly. After sorting out his emotions, he asked, "Qin Feiyang hasn't responded to you yet?" "No." Neptune shook his head, a cold light flashing in his eyes. "Just a few youngsters, and they've actually stirred up chaos in the 4 continents of the Divine Kingdom. These young people nowadays are really terrifying." Elder Yu had a bitter smile on his face. "Why are you still praising them?" Neptune frowned. "I should praise them when I deserve it. After all, they're really capable. However, they should be killed, and they should be killed." A glint of killing intent flashed in Yu Lao's eyes. "Lord Neptune," at this time, accompanied by a hurried shout, a middle-aged man with golden wings on his back hurriedly ran into the hall. "Our esteemed guest is here, yet you are so flustered. Where are your manners?" Neptune shouted with dissatisfaction. The middle-aged man's expression changed. He quickly looked at Yu Lao and bowed. "Please forgive me, Yu Lao. It's okay." Yu Lao waved his hand. Neptune asked, "What's the matter?" "A clansman sent a message to report that Qin Feiyang has responded to your invitation," the middle-aged man said. Neptune and Yu Lao looked at each other. Their eyes flashed, and they asked the middle-aged man, "What did he say?" "He agreed to meet you. But the meeting place is not on the Sea Lion Island, but at the Blackwater Lake in the South Continent," the middle-aged man said. "Blackwater Lake?" Yu Lao was stunned. "The Blackwater Lake is a dead lake. It's quite dangerous for ordinary people. Because the mountains around the Blackwater Lake are full of powerful fierce beasts. It's quite famous in the South Continent," the middle-aged man explained. "He didn't come to the Sea God Island. It seems that he's a very vigilant person," Yu Lao whispered. "That's for sure. Otherwise, how could he be so arrogant until now?" Neptune snorted and looked at the middle-aged man. "Did he say anything else?" "Yes. You're the only one allowed to go. If he finds out that there's a second person present, he'll kill 1,000,000 of our clansmen first," the middle-aged man said. "Bastard. I'd like to see if he has the guts to kill the clansmen of the Sea Clan." The Sea King flew into a rage. This threat was not hidden at all. Chapter 4176. Don't be angry. He might be trying to anger you and make you lose your rationality so that he can toy with you. Yu Lao comforted him softly. Neptune shuddered and hurriedly said gratefully, "You're right. I can't be angered by him. I have to remain calm at all times." Blackwater Lake, Yu Lao pondered for a while and laughed coldly. "Since he asked you to go to the Blackwater Lake, then go. I guarantee that he won't return." "Won't return?" Neptune was stunned. One had to know. The other party was Qin Feiyang. No one could compare to him in terms of intelligence or tactics. How could Yu Lao be so confident? I know about the Eye of Destiny's situation too. It said that you can only see the other party if you've seen them or know their name. In other words, they can only see your whereabouts now. Yu Lao's eyes sparkled. That's right. You've been on the Sea God's Island ever since you left the Central Dynasty. Even when you went to the God's Island, you went straight to the galaxy. Besides the Divine King, the King, Ryuko, and young Master Ji, no one else from the deity race has seen your true appearance. They don't know your name and appearance. Mu Qing's all-seeing eye naturally can't see your whereabouts either. Neptune's expression changed. Following which, streaks of cold light flashed in his eyes. Qin Feiyang, it's time for you to die. Yu Lao, do you want to bring those prodigies with you? The middle-aged man suddenly asked. Why? Yu Lao looked at him in confusion. The 10 prodigies that you brought with you have appeared in various places in the 4 great continents. I'm afraid that Qin Feiyang and the rest already know what they look like. I'm thinking that it's not appropriate for you to bring the 10 prodigies with you. The middle-aged man was worried. What you said makes sense. It's also this old man's fault. I didn't think things through and allowed them to run out and cause trouble. Yu Lao's face showed a trace of annoyance. If he had known this would happen, he would have let the 10 of them stay on the Sea God's Island for the time being. You don't have to blame yourself. After all, you didn't expect him to invite us to the Blackwater Lake. Neptune smiled. Yu Lao waved his hand and said, Don't help this old man find excuses. A mistake is a mistake. However, you can choose not to bring the other geniuses, but you must bring those 2 arrogant little bastards with you. This, Neptune was a little worried. Don't worry. Both of them are wearing masks. Even if Qin Feiyang and the others know of their existence, they don't know what they look like, let alone their names. Because even this old man doesn't know what they look like, let alone Qin Feiyang. Yu Lao sneered. What? You actually don't know what they look like? Neptune was shocked. Yes. I'm afraid that the only person in the Central Dynasty who has seen their true appearance is the Emperor. Yu Lao nodded. His expression was full of helplessness. This, Neptune and the middle-aged man looked at each other. So mysterious. The middle-aged man asked cautiously, Then you should know their names, right? I know that. They are brothers. The older brother is called Lu Yunfeng, and the younger brother is called Lu Yuntian. Lu Yunfeng doesn't talk much, and his personality is much better than Lu Yuntian's. However, I'd advise you not to provoke him. Otherwise, he'll be even more terrifying than Lu Yuntian. As for Lu Yuntian, as you can see, he's violent and lawless. Let alone this old man, he's offended most of the big shots in the Central Dynasty. In short, there are no rules in his eyes. Yu Lao shook his head helplessly. Neptune's mouth twitched. He was indeed a ruthless character. At the same time, it also reflected how astonishing the talents of these 2 brothers were. If you dared to provoke the big shots in the Central Dynasty without any ability, you would definitely not live to see the sun tomorrow. The middle-aged man asked curiously, Then who is stronger among the 10 prodigies you brought? Definitely Lu Yunfeng and Lu Yuntian. Although the others are strong, they're still far from being comparable to them. Yu Lao shook his head and sighed. If this pair of brothers had a better temper and treated him with more respect, it would be perfect. Unfortunately, there was no one in this world who was perfect. Either they were talented, or they had a bad temper. Either they had a good temper, or they had bad talent. All right. Let's go to Blackwater Lake now. This time, we'll catch them all in one fell swoop. Neptune nodded, killing intent flashing in his eyes. With Yu Lao's help, his confidence skyrocketed. Blackwater Lake in the southern continent. Qin Feiyang did not treat the agreement with Neptune as a secret, so now, all the creatures in the 4 continents were basically talking about it. Many creatures even came to Blackwater Lake before Qin Feiyang and Neptune to join in the fun. Blackwater Lake was tens of thousands of miles long. The lake water was as black as ink, with a strange aura. According to legend, there was once a giant beast here, and black sweat stains would flow out of its body. It was the sweat of this giant beast that gradually dyed the lake water here black. Of course, this was just a rumor. It was not very reliable, because no one had seen the so-called giant beast with their own eyes. At this moment, a large number of creatures gathered around the lake. There were humans, gods, purple gold divine dragons, there were also beasts and people of the Sea clan, without exception. They all came here in advance to join in the fun. Do you think Neptune dares to come? It's a little difficult. What do you mean? Look, Qin Feiyang has mastered the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death, and also has 2 wills of the heavenly Tao. With such strength, even the king, the divine king, and the supreme of the human clan are not his opponents. Think about it, even the 3 giants who have mastered 3,000 incarnations, the mark of the God clan, and the sword of faith are not Qin Feiyang's opponents, let alone Neptune. Although Neptune's status is similar to theirs, I estimate that his strength is not as good as the king and the other 2. So I speculate that Neptune does not dare to come. Listening to what you said, it does make sense. Discussions rose and fell one after another. People of the other races were listening with great interest. But when the people of the Sea clan heard these discussions, their faces were full of anger. Because as a member of the Sea clan, they felt ashamed when they heard people talk about Neptune like this. What nonsense are you talking about? How can the king and the other 2 be compared to Lord Neptune's strength? Let me tell you, the Lord Neptune you know now is just the tip of the iceberg. The people of the Sea clan roared angrily. Sea clan, what do you mean? Neptune is your lord. It's understandable that you flatter him. But shouldn't you recognize the truth when you flatter him? The king has 3,000 incarnations, the divine king has the mark of the God clan, and the supreme of the human clan has the sword of faith. What does Neptune have? You still dare to boast shamelessly about Neptune's strength. How can the king and the other 2 be compared to him? What? In the eyes of the Sea clan, the king and the other 2 are not even qualified to be compared to Neptune. If he is so powerful, why don't the Sea clan go to heaven? The words of the people of the Sea clan immediately aroused the dissatisfaction of the other 3 races, and they all attacked together. If the Sea clan wants to go to heaven, what can you do? Moreover, the Beast clan is supporting the Sea clan. The group of beasts also couldn't help but speak against the 3 races. Yo yo yo. The Beast clan still has the face to speak. Colluding with Qin Feiyang, killing Ji Tianfeng, and betraying Neptune, causing the Sea clan to lose millions of people and the 20 sea gods to be wiped out. The most ridiculous thing is that you used to make false accusations, saying that the king and the other 2 are colluding with Qin Feiyang. Is this the style of the Beast clan? You still support the Sea clan. Why don't you ask the Sea clan first, do they need your support? The 3 races retorted sarcastically. Don't talk nonsense. This is Qin Feiyang's trick. The Beast clan was furious. Whether it's a trick or not, you know clearly in your hearts. Brother, why are you arguing with these beasts? Haven't you heard the saying, the thief calls the police? All kinds of mocking laughter sounded particularly ear-piercing. The ferocious beasts of the beast race couldn't hold back their anger. They roared, you call him a beast? Aya! Did we say anything wrong? Look at you, not only do you look like beasts, but your personalities are worse than beasts. Not convinced? If you're not convinced, come and beat us. Let's see if you have the ability to do so. The 3 races sneered. Bastard! I'll kill you all. One of the beasts couldn't help but roar and pounce on the people of the three races. Do you think you're still in the East Continent? This is the South Continent. You're in the territory of the God Clan. A burly man of the God Clan shouted angrily and activated the mark of the God Clan. A supreme arcane appeared, exuding a powerful aura, and blasted toward the beast. Their strength was about the same. However, with the blessing of the God Clan's mark, the burly man of the God Clan naturally had the power to destroy it. The beast was sent flying on the spot, its body almost torn apart. How dare you bully the Beast Clan? Brothers, kill them. Following a roar, the fierce beasts present immediately charged towards the divine race with a ferocious aura. Do you think I'm afraid of you beasts? The God Clan sneered. There were estimated to be thousands of people on both sides. The scene immediately became a mess. The Beast Clan came to the South Continent and dared to be so arrogant. Brothers of the Human Clan, come with me to help. A human youth roared. Clansmen, we can't watch the God Clan and the Human Clan be bullied. Let's kill them together. A young man of the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan also roared. Yes. Beat them up. Beat these beasts up. The people of the two races roared angrily as they charged into the battlefield. With their addition, the scene became even more chaotic. For a moment, the Oceanids were a little confused. Weren't they targeting the Oceanids? Why did the Beast Clan and the three races start fighting first? What should we do? Should we help the Beast Clan or not? Help my ass. The Dragon God has caused the Oceanids to be in this state. They deserve it. If it weren't for the fact that the other party is from the Human Clan, the God Clan, and the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan, I would have beaten these beasts up. Many of the Oceanids sneered and stood aside to watch the show. Chapter 4177. More and more people were rushing over from all directions. There were people from all five races. What? The human race, the god race, and the Purple Gold Divine Dragon race joined forces to bully the beast race. Bastards, do you really think the beast race is easy to bully? What? The beast race actually dares to behave atrociously in the South Continent. These bastards, do they still think they're in the East Continent? Beat them up. As time passed, more and more people from the four races joined the fray. At first, there were only a few thousand people. In the end, it slowly became a few 100,000 people. And they were not weak. Their cultivation had basically reached the perfected sovereign realm, but there were differences in the profundities of the laws that they had mastered. The destructive power of a few 100,000 people fighting was not small. Not only was the Blackwater Lake razed to the ground, but even the surrounding mountains and rivers were all destroyed. Blood dyed the void and earth red. At this moment, tens of thousands of people from the sea race also gathered, but they were all standing by and watching the show. After all, they were the ones who had started this chaotic battle. But now, they were like bystanders. Of course. There were also some more rational or more timid people from the four races watching the battle from afar. Among these spectators, there was a very ordinary-looking old man with a walking stick in his hand. The aura he exuded was not strong, and no one noticed him standing there. If one observed carefully, they would find that his turbid eyes were glowing. This person was actually Qin Feiyang. He also did not expect that the people from the four races would fight first. Logically speaking, with his relationship with the king, the divine king, and the human race's sovereign, he should come forward to help the three races. But now, obviously, he could not help. Otherwise, the sea race and the beast race might be suspicious. Suddenly, he seemed to have sensed something and looked up at the sky above the battlefield. He saw the void distort, and a space-time passage quickly appeared. It should be him. Qin Feiyang muttered. As expected, A middle-aged man in a golden robe walked out from the space-time passage. He had golden wings on his back, and he was like a god descending, emitting a great pressure. Lord Neptune. When the several tens of thousands of seafolk saw Neptune, they immediately soared into the air to greet him. What are you guys doing here? If by any chance Qin Feiyang makes a move and kidnaps all of you, this sovereign will have to think of a way to rescue all of you. Wouldn't that be causing trouble for this sovereign? Neptune frowned. The members of the Sea tribe in front of him were basically the most ordinary members of the Sea tribe. Facing Qin Feiyang, whom even he, a magnate of the divine kingdom, was afraid of, they could only be beaten up. We're just here to take a look. The group of Oceanids lowered their heads. What's there to see? Neptune was furious. He was just causing trouble for him. He looked down at the 4 races and frowned. What is going on? The 3 major races ganged up on the beast race. The beast race deserves it. Who told the dragon god to betray you, my lord? The tens of thousands of oceanic species sneered. Neptune frowned. It seemed that his people's hatred for the beast race was not ordinary. He then shouted, all of you, stop. Who dared to disobey Neptune's orders? Even the 3 major races who were unhappy with the oceanic species had to behave. We are all members of the divine kingdom. What are you guys doing here? If Qin Feiyang saw this, wouldn't he laugh at you? The sea god shouted angrily. Lord Neptune, even the dragon god betrayed you. Why are you still speaking up for the beast race? Someone from the god race asked. Was there something wrong with this Neptune's brain? This matter is still under investigation. Moreover, even if there is such a thing, it is a personal grudge between this sovereign and the dragon god. Do you need to interfere? Get out of here right now, or bear the consequences. Neptune shouted with a sullen face. Seems like there really is something wrong with his brain. The members of the 3 major races snorted and turned to leave with their seriously injured companions. The casualties of the beasts were even greater. Those who survived were also in an extremely sorry state. They were either missing an arm, a leg, or an ear or a nose. You guys get out too. Neptune looked at the tens of thousands of oceanic species. Yes. A group of oceanic species fled in horror. What a headache. Glancing at the devastated land full of corpses, Neptune rubbed his forehead. How did the relationship between the major races develop to such a situation? Although the 3 major races were not on good terms with the oceanic species and the beast race in the past, there had never been such a large-scale battle. At the same time, Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered as he looked at the Sea King. Suddenly, he transmitted his voice, Mu Qing, help me take a look. Where are Inner Demon and Big Cousin now? Okay. Mu Qing responded. At this moment, he had already come out and was standing in the tea garden. When he heard Qin Feiyang's words, he immediately opened his all-seeing eye. Of course, it was Qin Feiyang who arranged for Mu Qing to come out in advance. Because in the face of Neptune, he had to be careful. After a while, a smile crept onto Mu Qing's face as she said, they are inside a spatial divine object, and they are very close to you. He knew about the appearance of the inner demons and Lu Jiajin, so now, he was not surprised. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. In that case, they should be in Neptune's space divine object. He said again, help me see where Yu Lao is. A short while passed. Mu Qing said, this old man is with the inner demons and Lu Jiajin. What's the situation? Qin Feiyang was a little surprised and said suspiciously, they know that we have the all-seeing eye, but they still did such a stupid thing. Obviously. Yu Lao was hiding in the dark, trying to find a chance to kill him. It's not that they are stupid, it's that they didn't expect that you had seen them with your own eyes when they descended on the Sea God Island. In other words, This Yulao still thinks that we don't know what he looks like and can't use the all-seeing eye to spy on them. As for the inner demons and Lu Jiejin, Yulao would never think that they are all our people. Mu Qin laughed, his words full of ridicule. Huh, Qin Feiyang laughed secretly and said, then help me see where the other 8 geniuses of the Central Dynasty are now. Back then, on the Sea God Island, not only Elder Yu, but also the inner demons and Lu Jiejin, Qin Feiyang also saw the other 8 heavenly tribulations with his own eyes, so he knew what they looked like. They are not with Yulao. Soon. Mu Qin's surprised voice sounded in Qin Feiyang's mind. They are not with Yulao. Qin Feiyang was also stunned and asked suspiciously, then where are they now? The Sea God Island. Mu Qin replied. The Sea God Island, Qin Feiyang was deep in thought. Why did Yulao only bring the inner demons and big cousin here and leave these 8 people on the Sea God Island? Could it be that these 8 people are not very strong and might be a burden to them? Mu Qin guessed. Don't you think you are underestimating the geniuses of the Central Dynasty? Qin Feiyang was speechless. How could the geniuses brought by Yulao along with the inner demons and big cousin be weak? Taking a step back. Even if they were not as strong as the inner demons and big cousin, they could not be a burden. Underestimate them? I think you are overestimating them. However, Neptune is so disobedient. Shouldn't we teach him a lesson? Mu Qin smiled slyly. That's what I was thinking. A smile appeared in Qin Feiyang's eyes as he raised his head to look at the Sea King. Then, he left silently. At the same time, Neptune looked around. Why hadn't this person appeared yet? The Sea God Island. After Neptune returned, the Sea Clan on the islands had already evacuated. There were only 200,000 to 300,000 core members left on the Sea God Island. However, even if Neptune returned, even if Yulao, a big shot from the Central Dynasty, was there, the Sea Clan did not let down their guard. What is the meaning of this? He went to the Blackwater Lake without us. In an elegant and quiet courtyard. 8 young men and women gathered together with a trace of displeasure on their faces. These were the other 8 geniuses of the Central Dynasty. There is nothing we can do about it. It's because those 2 brothers are stronger than us. Besides, we are going to deal with Qin Feiyang this time. Only those 2 brothers can fight with Qin Feiyang. As for us, we can only kill the mad scientist, the golden-winged wolf king, Long Chen and Long Qin. A young man in a fiery red robe shook his head and sighed. These words were not just arrogant in the ordinary sense. The mad scientist, the white-eyed wolf, Long Chen and Long Qin were just small potatoes in his eyes. If the mad scientist and the others knew about this, they would be furious. No one had ever dared to look down on them in the Divine Kingdom. Let's not talk about this. I found a few jars of divine wine in the cellar of a restaurant in the West Continent. It tastes really good. One of the young men took out a jar of wine and said with a smile as he opened the seal. Yes, yes, yes. Don't ruin your mood. Actually, think about it. They are going to fight with Qin Feiyang while we are leisurely drinking wine and chatting. Do you feel uncomfortable? Another young man laughed. Hearing this, the others also laughed. Thinking of this, they felt a lot better. Boom. However, before they opened the jar of wine, a terrifying aura suddenly descended on the island. The 8 of them hurriedly looked up and saw an old man in his 70s or 80s walking out of a space-time tunnel with a walking stick. Who is it? How dare you come to the Sea God's Island so ostentatiously? The 8 of them purposely said. Who are you? I am the Sea God's Island. What do you want? Accompanied by a shout, a middle-aged man from the sea race flew into the sky like lightning and looked at the old man walking out of the space-time tunnel with a trace of vigilance in his eyes. Hee hee, The old man laughed hoarsely. The power of life and death rolled out like a tide. In the next moment, accompanied by a loud bang, the ultimate power of the law of life and death appeared. This is the kingdom of life and death, you are, Qin Feiyang. The middle-aged man stared at Qin Feiyang in horror and then suddenly turned around and ran out of the island. He shouted, Qin Feiyang is attacking. Everyone, escape from the sea god's island immediately. What? Qin Feiyang is attacking the sea god's island again? When the sea race on the island heard the middle-aged man's shout, a deep fear appeared in their eyes. They didn't care about anything and desperately ran out of the island. Chapter 4178. Qin Feiyang ignored the escaping members of the Sea clan and waved his hand. The kingdom of life and death suspended in the air charged toward the island below with a destructive force. He is Qin Feiyang. Why is it a bad old man? The 8 supreme talents did not escape. They all looked at Qin Feiyang in shock. Kingdom of life and death, I really want to experience it. The young man in the red robe suddenly let out a wild laugh. Streaks of ultimacy appeared and a burst of will of the heavenly Tao erupted. Ha! Qin Feiyang was stunned. Someone actually dared to attack. He lowered his head and looked in the direction of the voice. It turned out to be a supreme talent from the Central Dynasty. The other acquaintances were also full of fighting spirit. Boom! 7 people. They all burst out with 6 ultimate ultimacy and the will of the heavenly Tao surged in all directions. Will of the heavenly Tao, the supreme talents of the central divine kingdom really can't be underestimated. Qin Feiyang's pupils shrank. One had to know. The supreme talents of the God clan, the purple gold divine dragons, the Sea clan, and the Beast clan had only mastered 2 or 3 ultimate ultimacy. Even the Dragon Son had only grasped 3 ultimate profundities of ultimate laws. But these 8 people, all of them had mastered the will of the heavenly Tao. These people were already comparable to the supremacies of the 3 major clans. Recalling Mu Qing's words, he did not know whether to laugh or cry. Such supreme talents would never be a burden. Boom! The 8 supreme talents joined forces. 48 ultimate ultimacies that contained the will of the heavenly Tao charged toward the kingdom of life and death with shocking power. With a loud bang, the kingdom of life and death collapsed on the spot. Qin Feiyang's face turned slightly pale. A gush of hot blood gushed out from his throat. Although the kingdom of life and death was very powerful, the opponents were after all 8 supreme talents who had mastered the will of the heavenly Tao. If he did not use some other means, it was really impossible to defeat the 8 of them. The kingdom of life and death is just as so. The young man in the red robe raised his head and laughed. The 8 supreme talents joined forces to defeat my kingdom of life and death and you are still proud? Qin Feiyang's lips curled with a mocking smile. The young man raised his eyebrows and said with a sinister smile, why are you so arrogant? Do you think we are the supreme talents of the 5 major clans? I have the right to be arrogant. Moreover, in my opinion, you are no different from those so-called useless geniuses. Qin Feiyang smiled disdainfully. 3,000 incarnations. 3,000 kingdom of life and death instantly. As the void and the heavenses of the heavenly Tao, of the sea island below. The mountains and the mountains and mountains were like dead mountains 3,000 incarnations, of the heavenly Tao, the 8 supreme of death's death, heaven's turn. I thought Yang Hao Qin Feng. In the end, he was no different from the others. He ran away like a dog. Qin Feiyang was disdainful. 3,000 of the world and death rumble. In an instant, the entire sea god's island disappeared from the surface of the sea, including all the resources. It was as if they had evaporated into thin air, leaving only dust in the sky. The 8 supreme talents who escaped were also affected by the shockwave. Their bodies were crushed on the spot. Their divine souls were also being crushed. However, in the end, a trace of their divine souls escaped. Their hearts were filled with fear. Was this Qin Fei Yang's strength? 3,000 incarnations and the heavenly Tao's will, he was indeed extraordinarily strong. However, there were no casualties on the Sea God's Island. This was because they had escaped in time. Moreover, the 8 supreme talents blocked the first kingdom of life and death, which was equivalent to buying them enough time to escape. At the same time, they had already sent a message to Neptune. What? They went to the Sea Lion Island. When the Sea King received the message, he immediately opened up a space-time passage. Of course, Qin Fei Yang also noticed that the Sea Tribe had sent a message to Neptune. Originally, he wanted to completely eliminate the 8 supreme talents. After all, they would become his opponents sooner or later. However, he had to give up on this idea when he saw that the Sea Tribe had already notified Neptune. This was because once the Sea King returned, the Sea King, who possessed the power of the origin, could easily kill him. Count yourselves lucky this time. It's better to keep a low profile when you're outside in the future. Also, tell Neptune that this is the price for not keeping his promise. As for the next judgment, we'll meet 3 days later at the 1,000 Phoenix Mountain. Don't play any tricks again. Qin Fei Yang looked at the 8 supreme talents' divine souls and said indifferently. Then, he opened a space-time tunnel and left without looking back. Right after Qin Fei Yang left, the Sea King returned to the Sea God's Island. When he saw the turbulent sea surface, his expression immediately became incomparably ferocious. The Sea God's Island was the sacred ground of the Sea Tribe. Now, Qin Fei Yang destroyed the entire Sea God's Island. Wasn't that equivalent to slapping his face? Moreover, as a sacred ground, it naturally had a lot of resources. For example, soul vein, crystal vein, medicinal herbs. But now, everything had been destroyed. Shame. This is the greatest shame in the history of the Sea Tribe. Qin Fei Yang, get out here. Neptune clenched his hands together and roared at the sky. Lord Neptune, you must kill him, otherwise, our Sea Tribe will bear this shame for the rest of our lives. Hundreds of thousands of core members of the Sea Tribe gathered around, their faces filled with grief and indignation. I will. Don't worry. Neptune gritted his teeth. With a thought, Yu Lao and the inner demons appeared. Neptune said, Yu Lao, you saw it too, right? This is Qin Fei Yang's means. Yu Lao lowered his head and scanned the sea surface. His eyes were filled with a shocking cold light. Yu Lao. The remnant souls of the 8 geniuses flew over. How did you guys become like this? Yu Lao was shocked. Do you still need to think about it? They must have overestimated themselves and ran to kill Qin Fei Yang. In the end, they were seriously injured by Qin Fei Yang. The inner demon sneered. His words were full of contempt for the 8 geniuses. The 8 geniuses immediately glared at the inner demons angrily. Don't gloat. Yu Lao also glared fiercely at the inner demons. Looking at the 8 of them, he said, Is he alone? Yes. Before leaving, he also asked us to pass on a message to Neptune. This is the price for not keeping your promise. And he also said that the next negotiation will be in 3 days at the 1,000 Phoenix Mountain. Don't play any tricks again. The 8 geniuses said. What does that mean? Does he know that you are hiding in my space divine item? Neptune looked at Yu Lao and the inner demons in surprise. Obviously so. The inner demons pursed his lips. But how did he know? He has never seen Yu Lao or your faces, nor does he know your real names. Mu Qin can't spy on your whereabouts at all. Neptune's face was full of surprise. What the hell is going on? The inner demons and Lu Jiajin certainly knew. When they first came to the Sea God Island, the inner demons had already noticed Qin Feiyang hiding in the dark. However, Neptune, Yu Lao, and the 8 geniuses were all puzzled. Did someone tell them? Neptune suddenly asked. Do you mean that there is really a spy in our divine kingdom? Yu Lao frowned. If there is no spy, then how did Qin Feiyang find your whereabouts? Neptune asked. It must be the dragon god. Someone from the Sea clan around shouted. Yes. Apart from him, there is no one else. And he has also seen Yu Lao. The other members of the Sea clan also roared angrily and murderously. Neptune frowned. No matter what his clansmen said, he still didn't believe that the dragon god would be a spy of the divine kingdom. But apart from the dragon god, who else knew what Yu Lao looked like? The king, the divine king, the supreme being of the human clan, Boss Ji, and a group of elders, but these people were even more impossible. Because if they were spies, then they wouldn't have come to protect the sea god's island and his clansmen. There is no evidence about the spy, so I can't say anything, but I can't let my guard down. Yu Lao thought for a while, looked at Neptune and said, 3 days later, you will go and meet him alone. You have the power of origin, so if there is a chance, you can still kill him. I'm afraid he won't give me this chance so easily. Neptune shook his head and sighed. Yu Lao raised his eyebrows and said angrily, are you scared out of your wits by him? If he doesn't give you a chance, won't you create one yourself? Neptune's eyes trembled, looking at the angry Yu Lao, he quickly nodded and said, I will try my best. What I want is not to try your best, but to do it. Yu Lao looked at him gloomily, then turned and opened a space-time tunnel. Where are you going? Neptune hurriedly asked. To stay at the Dragon God Mountain for a few days. I can also observe the Dragon God and see if he is a spy. Lu Yunfeng, you two stay here and guard the Sea tribe. The others follow me to the Dragon God Mountain to recuperate. With that, Yu Lao stepped into the space-time tunnel without looking back. The remnant souls of the 8 prodigies hurriedly followed. Damn old man, don't order me around all day. Who do you think you are? The inner demons shouted angrily. Yu Lao, who had entered the space-time tunnel, heard this and his face darkened. He almost couldn't help but go berserk. The Sea King's heart skipped a beat as he listened. Damned old man. He really dared to say that. He then cupped his hands and said politely, I'll have to trouble you two from now on. Get lost. Do I have an obligation to protect the Sea tribe? The inner demons looked at him with disdain, then rose into the air and disappeared at the end of the sea. Neptune's face stiffened. Yes. I admit that you have the right to be arrogant. But shouldn't there be a limit to your arrogance? Beside him, Lu Jiajin's gaze suddenly sharpened as well. He looked at the Sea King and said, I advise you not to kill him. Although you have origin energy and have the ability to kill us, it won't do you any good to do so. With that, he turned and left without looking back. Neptune was shocked. How could this person's insight be so terrifying? The inner demon's arrogance and rudeness did make him want to kill them, but it was short-lived and disappeared in the blink of an eye. But he didn't expect to be discovered by this person. What kind of monsters were these two? In his heart, his fear of the inner demons and Lu Jiajin deepened. Chapter 4179. Mount Supreme. In a large hall. The king, the divine king, and the human race supremes gathered together. I really admire this kid. He said that he would negotiate at the Blackwater Lake, but in the blink of an eye, he ran to the Sea God's Island. This time, the Sea God's Island was destroyed. Neptune will probably die of anger. The divine king shook his head. He thought that Qin Feiyang would be more restrained when the people of the Central Dynasty arrived. But he didn't expect him to be so crazy. This time, it's really Qin Feiyang's fault. If it wasn't for Neptune's evil intentions, would he have gone to destroy the sea god's island? The human race supremes shook their heads. He reaped what he sowed. Although the sea race didn't suffer any casualties, the resources of the sea god's island occupied almost half of the entire sea race. For Neptune, losing the resources of the sea god's island was probably more painful than losing the people on the island. But then again, we didn't seem to have told him the names and appearances of Yu Lao and the others. But how could Mu Qin use the all-seeing eye to spy on their whereabouts? The king was puzzled. Who knows? The divine king shook his head. You can't treat this group of little guys with ordinary eyes, otherwise you will definitely suffer a great loss. Just like this time. Yu Lao and Neptune were too arrogant, which was why they ended up in such a sorry state. However, if this group of brats' plan can really succeed, then it can directly break the current deadlock. It's more helpful for the current situation. The divine king said. That's right. At present, the only thing that can make us afraid is the origin energy in the hands of Neptune and the dragon god. As long as Neptune loses his origin energy, then there's nothing to worry about. Moreover, when Qin Feiyang obtains Neptune's origin energy, then he can fight with the dragon god. This time, the reason why I called you all over is to discuss this matter. The human race supremes looked at the two and said. What's there to discuss? Both the monarch and the divine king were confused. Because this matter was handled by Qin Feiyang, it had nothing to do with them. They only needed to wait for the good news from Qin Feiyang. What I mean is, if Qin Feiyang successfully obtains the origin energy in Neptune's hands and successfully controls the dragon god will become our ally. In other words, from now on, our only enemies will be the Oceanids and the Central Dynasty. Humans, beasts, purple gold dragons, and beasts. If we work together, we should be able to fight against the Oceanic race and the Central Dynasty. The eyes of the human race's supreme martial artist shone brightly, and a murderous aura emanated from his body. The divine king asked in surprise, are you saying that we will officially rebel when Qin Feiyang controls the dragon god? Cough cough. Don't say it so bluntly. The word rebel sounds a bit, the human race supremes coughed. The divine king rolled his eyes. A rebellion is a rebellion. What's the point of looking for an excuse? The human race supremes smiled and asked, what do you think? The monarch and the divine king looked at each other and hesitated. What are you hesitating about? The human race supremes was suspicious. If we know the Central Dynasty's strength, we can declare war directly. But currently, we know nothing about the Central Dynasty's situation. It's a bit rash to declare war now. The divine king pondered. I think so too. As the saying goes, know thyself and know thy enemy, and victory is assured. Before declaring war, we must first figure out the Central Dynasty's strength. What if, I'm just saying if the people from the Central Dynasty also control origin power, then we'll be in big trouble. The monarch was worried. This step had to be foolproof. Because he couldn't afford to gamble. The divine king couldn't afford to gamble either. The human race supremes couldn't afford to gamble either. Because once they lost, it wasn't just their personal matter. The entire god race, the human race, and the purple gold divine dragon race would face a disaster because of this. The human race supremes pondered for a while and nodded. It seems that I was too impatient. The monarch and the divine king's concerns weren't without reason. If, they were all alone and could do whatever they wanted. Anyway, even if they died, it wouldn't implicate others. But there was no other way. Now, they were all rulers of a region. Any decision would affect the entire race. So, they didn't have the capital to be willful, and they didn't have the qualifications to fail. In short, they had to win this battle. Then let's continue to bide our time. The human race supremes shook his head and smiled. No. We should also do something. The monarch waved his hand. What can we do? The divine king and the human race supremes were taken aback and looked at him suspiciously. Spirit vein, crystal vein. Didn't Qin Feiyang say that the more spirit veins and crystal veins there are, the faster Qin Feiyang's growth will be? We can't give him other things, but spirit veins and crystal veins, for us, aren't they easy? The monarch smiled slightly. The two looked at each other. This wasn't a problem. The growth of the Black Tortoise realm is not only beneficial to the growth of the sovereign divine weapon, but also the origin power. There are only two ways to deal with the divine kingdom's origin power. The first is the power of faith. But the power of faith is really too difficult. And now, the people of the Central Dynasty have arrived. We don't dare to change the faith of our people, because if the people of the Central Dynasty find out, they will definitely be suspicious of us. So, we can only start with the second way, the origin power. As long as the Black Tortoise realm becomes as powerful as the Divine Kingdom, won't it be easy to deal with the Divine Kingdom's origin power? The monarch smiled slightly. Makes sense. The two nodded. Although the growth of the Black Tortoise realm was very slow, in the big picture, this was the safest way. Moreover, they had endured in the Divine Kingdom for so many years, and they didn't lack this little bit of time. The other thing was, when Qin Feiyang and the sovereign of the Divine Kingdom fought, the Divine Kingdom would definitely be destroyed. Rather than letting these spirit veins and crystal veins be destroyed in the battle, it was better to give them to Qin Feiyang as soon as possible. Since there are no objections, let's take action. The monarch said. Who are you talking about that I have no objections? The divine king snorted coldly. Ah. The monarch looked at the divine king in shock. Qin Feiyang is a descendant of your purple gold divine dragon clan. If you help him now, it's the same as helping yourself. Furthermore, if your purple gold divine dragon clan is in trouble in the future, he will definitely help you regardless of his own safety. But what about us? We are not related at all. What if Qin Feiyang really grows up and turns his back on us and doesn't care about our lives? The divine king pursed his lips. The monarch heard this and the corners of his mouth twitched slightly. He was speechless. Aren't you worried for nothing? Is Qin Feiyang such a person? Then who knows? You may know a person for a long time without understanding his true nature. The divine king sneered and turned to look at the sovereign of the human race. What do you think? The sovereign of the human race smiled but didn't say anything. The monarch looked at the divine king helplessly and said, if you say so, then there's nothing I can do. After all, you won't believe my guarantee. How about this? Find a time and let Qin Feiyang take us to the Black Tortoise realm and have a good look. The divine king said. What do you mean? The monarch was a little puzzled. I think the creatures of the Black Tortoise realm must know him very well. The divine king chuckled. All right. I won't speak for him. After all, seeing is believing. There's no need to find another time. Let's do it now. With that, the monarch took out the divine voice stone and sent a message to Qin Feiyang. The divine king hurriedly said, just say that you're curious about the Black Tortoise realm and want to go in and take a look. Not to mention us, I don't want him to know. Right now, I'm doubting his character and it's affecting harmony. All right. The monarch nodded with a bitter smile. Buzz. Not long after. Qin Feiyang's figure appeared. Seeing the three giants gathered together, Qin Feiyang couldn't help but be slightly stunned. He smiled and said, Seniors, do you have any orders? We have nothing to do, so we want to go to your Black Tortoise realm for a stroll. You won't refuse, right? The monarch chuckled. Go to the Black Tortoise realm for a stroll? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Were they all so free and relaxed? It's just a small wish and you're hesitating. Could it be that you're hiding some secrets in the Black Tortoise realm? The Divine King teased. Eh. Qin Feiyang was stunned. He shook his head and smiled. What secrets could I have? I'm just surprised. Alright, I'll go and pick you guys up now. Alright. We're at Mount Supreme. The monarch nodded and told Qin Feiyang the location of the meeting. Then, he turned off the divine voice stone. Soon. Qin Feiyang silently landed in a valley outside Mount Supreme. Because right now, no one knew about his alliance with the three races. Therefore, unless it was an emergency, it was better not to enter Mount Supreme. When he appeared in the valley, the monarch and the other two also arrived. Brat, you're amazing. Right now, Neptune probably wants to skin you alive. The monarch said. That can't be helped. He asked for it. Qin Feiyang shrugged. It's indeed a bit like asking for humiliation. But aren't you just wasting the resources on the Sea God's Island by destroying it? You should first transfer all the resources to the Black Tortoise realm and then destroy the Sea God's Island. The monarch sighed. I want to too. But there's not enough time. Qin Feiyang shook his head. If possible, he definitely wouldn't let go of the resources on the Sea God's Island. Alright. Bring us to the Black Tortoise realm. This time, we must take a good look around and experience the scenery of the Black Tortoise realm. The monarch smiled. How carefree. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled bitterly. He waved his hand and brought the three of them to the Devil's Land. Since I have time now, I'll accompany you guys to take a look around. No need, we'll go by ourselves. The Divine King waved his hand. Huh. Qin Feiyang looked at the three of them. What are they planning? Ha! The human race supreme scanned the Devil's Land and soon found something strange. The people and beasts here were actually fusing with the inheritance of the ultimate profound. Why are there so many inheritances here? The human race supreme asked, Can I release my divine sense? He couldn't believe it, so he wanted to confirm it with his divine sense. Of course. Qin Feiyang nodded. The human race supreme immediately released his divine sense and shrouded the Devil's Land. His face was full of shock. Seeing this, the Divine King and the monarch also released their divine sense. When they saw it, they were also shocked. Chapter 4180. Where on earth did you find so many inheritances? It's even richer than our divine kingdom. The Divine King looked at Qin Feiyang in disbelief. This, you'll know in the future. For now, I won't reveal it. Qin Feiyang smiled mysteriously. The Divine King rolled his eyes at him. At this moment, she even had an illusion. Could Qin Feiyang create the inheritance of the ultimate mysteries? Otherwise, how could there be so many? Everyone was fusing, and they were all ultimate mysteries of the strongest laws. Even if everyone had one, there would still be thousands of them. Even they had never seen the inheritance of thousands of ultimate laws and ultimate profundities. It was truly inconceivable. You really don't need me to lead the way? Qin Feiyang asked. No need. You do your own thing. The Divine King calmed down the shock in his heart and waved his hand at Qin Feiyang. Then, he looked at the monarch and the human race's supremacy and turned to leave together. What the hell? Qin Feiyang looked at the backs of the three with a puzzled face. Then, he entered the tea garden and made a pot of tea. While drinking, he released his perception to observe the three. Half a day passed. Realization finally dawned on his face. It turned out that they were here to investigate his background and character. It seemed that the Divine King and the human race's supremacy still didn't trust him. But this was also good. He could use this opportunity to let the Divine King and the human race's supremacy completely understand his character so that they could let go of their worries. He was still confident in this matter. Because he had always had a clear conscience towards the creatures of the Black Tortoise world. Qin Feiyang used his perception again to find Pai Lupi and Theta Wang and said, "You guys pay attention. Don't interfere with where the monarch and the other two go, but don't let them go to the Soul Sealing Valley." The monarch and the others came to the Black Tortoise world. Pai Lupi was surprised. "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded. "Okay. We'll be careful." The two of them replied. The reason why he didn't let the three of them go to the Soul Sealing Valley was because he still wanted to keep this a secret. In the blink of an eye. 3 days passed outside. In the Black Tortoise world, it had already been 15,000 years. Seeing that the monarch and the other two had not returned, Qin Feiyang did not rush them. He got up and walked towards Mu Qing's courtyard. Through Mu Qing's all-seeing eye, Neptune had already arrived at the Thousand Phoenix Mountain. Furthermore, this time, he was indeed alone. Hence, Qin Feiyang left the Black Tortoise world alone and headed to the Thousand Phoenix Mountain range. Thousand Phoenix Mountain. It had long since ceased to exist. At this moment, a golden figure stood in the void with a gloomy expression. It was Neptune. Whoosh! A space-time tunnel appeared. Neptune immediately turned his head, his eyes flashing coldly. This was because the aura coming from the space-time tunnel belonged to Qin Feiyang. The next moment, Qin Feiyang walked out of the passage and said with a smile, "Sorry to have kept you waiting." Cut the crap. Neptune's face was gloomy. "All right. Let's get straight to the point. To tell you the truth, none of the Sea Clan members that I kidnapped died. However, if you want me to let them go, you have to agree to one condition." Qin Feiyang said. "Not a single one died." This result surprised Neptune. Because in his opinion, with Qin Feiyang's methods, he would definitely kill these people. "You don't have to doubt it. Because I disdain lying about such things." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Neptune frowned and asked, "Then what is your condition?" "One thing. That is the origin energy in your hands." Qin Feiyang smiled. Neptune's gaze suddenly trembled. It turned out that this person was after the origin energy in his hands. Although there is only one condition, it is also the only condition. If you want to save these people, then you have to meet my condition. Qin Feiyang said. There was no room for negotiation. Neptune's face was gloomy and uncertain. Suddenly, he sneered and said, "Your calculations are really good. As long as you get the origin energy in this king's hands, you can fight with the dragon god." "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded. There was no need to deny such a thing. "Why do you keep targeting the dragon god?" Neptune frowned. "If people don't offend me, I won't offend them. But if people offend me, I will do whatever it takes. Back then at the Dragon God Mountain, because of this hypocrite, I almost fell into your encirclement. This debt must be settled with him." Qin Feiyang smiled coldly. "I'm afraid it's not that simple. You finding trouble with the dragon god should also be related to the origin energy in his hands." Neptune said. "Lord Neptune is really amazing. You can even think of this." "That's right. The origin energy of the divine kingdom is the biggest threat to me, so I have to get rid of the biggest threat first." As Qin Feiyang said this, he suddenly looked at Neptune's right hand that was hidden in his sleeve. Neptune's expression was slightly flustered, and he directly put his right hand behind his back. "Don't hide it. You're holding the divine sound stone in your hand, right?" Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Neptune raised his eyebrows. He was actually discovered. "You are indeed more difficult to deal with than the dragon god. While tricking me, you used the divine sound stone to record it, so as to absolve the dragon god. However, I have been using this method since I was a teenager, so in front of me, you don't have to be so secretive." Qin Feiyang chuckled. When Neptune heard this, his face suddenly turned red. It was as if he was mocking him. The method he used when he was a teenager, and now he, an old antique, was still using it. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed, and he said with a smile, "It's impossible for you to get an answer from me, let alone expect me to absolve the dragon god. But you clearly said just now that you're targeting him." Neptune sneered. "I did say that. And I am indeed targeting the dragon god. But what can this mean? Can it mean that I framed Ji Tianfeng's death? Or does it mean that I'm the one who framed him for leaking the information? It doesn't seem to be the case." Qin Feiyang laughed. Neptune's brows were tightly knitted. Regarding these two matters, Qin Feiyang did not give a clear answer before. "But I think you're really interesting." Qin Feiyang shook his head. "What do you mean?" Neptune raised his eyebrows. "The 20 sea gods are all in my hands. The lives of millions of sea clansmen are now in danger. The sea god's island is destroyed. You're in a very difficult situation now, but even so, you didn't forget to help the dragon god. I really don't know how to evaluate you. Should I say that you're loyal and righteous? Or should I say that you're stupid?" Qin Feiyang had a playful look on his face. "Don't be too presumptuous." Neptune suppressed his voice. His expression was extremely gloomy. This was a blatant mockery of him. "Don't be angry, I'm just stating a fact. Don't be in a hurry to answer me, think about it carefully." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly, and with a wave of his hand, the millions of sea clansmen imprisoned in the desert of death immediately appeared in the void beside him. Lord Neptune. Seeing Neptune, the group of sea clansmen was immediately overjoyed. "What do you mean by this?" Neptune looked at Qin Feiyang in confusion. He actually took the initiative to release so many of his clansmen. It seemed to be a very good thing, but his heart was beating a little fast because Qin Feiyang couldn't be such a kind person. "It's a deal, of course there must be sincerity. This is my sincerity. I hope that you can also show your sincerity. After all, the sea gods and hundreds of thousands of core members of the sea clansmen are still in my hands." 3 days later. "Give me an answer on time here." Qin Feiyang smiled slightly, opened a space-time tunnel, turned around and left without looking back. Neptune stared at Qin Feiyang's back, his eyes flickering. He was hesitating, should he make a move? But in the end, he gave up this idea. Because the sea gods and hundreds of thousands of core members of the sea clansmen were still in danger. In comparison, the millions of clansmen in front of him couldn't be compared to the value of the sea gods and the hundreds of thousands of core members. Moreover, the sea gods and hundreds of thousands of core members were imprisoned in the Black Tortoise world. Qin Feiyang, as the ruler of the Black Tortoise world, could completely kill all the clansmen before he could do anything. "Lord Neptune, you're letting him go just like that. You must kill him. Not only did he imprison us, but he also let his subordinates steal all our divine arts and artifacts." Millions of sea clansmen roared angrily. "Shut up." Neptune frowned. "What's the big deal about a mere divine art and artifact? 20 sea gods and hundreds of thousands of core members, this is the most important thing." Seeing Neptune angry, millions of sea clansmen shrank their necks and immediately quieted down. Neptune suppressed the anger in his heart and asked, "Are the sea gods and the other clansmen okay now?" "We didn't see them." The group of people shook their heads. "You didn't see them?" Neptune was slightly stunned and frowned. "They weren't imprisoned with you?" "No. We were imprisoned in a desert. Apart from Qin Feiyang's 2 subordinates, we didn't see anyone else. Moreover, what imprisoned us is the power of laws of the Black Tortoise world. Therefore, we couldn't escape at all, so we don't know the situation of the sea gods." The group of people spoke at once. Hearing this, Neptune immediately looked up at the dissipating space-time tunnel. They were actually imprisoned separately. This was obviously to not give him a chance to rescue them. Because even if he released millions of clansmen, he wouldn't be able to obtain any valuable information, so naturally, he wouldn't be able to come up with a plan to rescue them. What a cunning little bastard. Actually, he didn't know. He was just overthinking. They were imprisoned separately because they didn't want him to know that the hundreds of thousands of core clansmen had been stripped of their ultimate mysteries. Because if he knew, these hundreds of thousands of core clansmen wouldn't be of much value. Go back. Without this sovereign's order, no one is allowed to leave the sea from now on. Neptune took a deep breath and suppressed the irritation in his heart as he looked at the millions of clansmen and said solemnly, "Okay." The millions of sea clansmen nodded in fear. Their hearts were filled with despair. Even Lord Neptune couldn't do anything to Qin Feiyang. Chapter 3, Release at 9 a.m., End of chapter. Chapter 41-81. When Qin Feiyang left the Thousand Phoenix Mountain, he directly returned to the Devil's Land and found that the king and the other two were sitting in the tea garden, leisurely sipping tea. What tea? So fragrant? Qin Feiyang muttered. It was as if he was looking at a sky full of gods and Buddhas and hearing the chanting of scriptures. When he ran over and saw the teapot, he was dumbfounded. In the teapot, there was a Bodhi fruit. Golden light flickered, and the divinity was astonishing. Although he had obtained the Bodhi tree for so long, he had never been willing to drink it. Because the supreme-grade divine tea, just looking at it was enough to satisfy him. But he didn't expect these three to be so impolite and directly pluck a Bodhi fruit into the tea. This caused him great heartache. What expression! Didn't I just pluck a Bodhi fruit from you? The divine king looked at him unhappily. Isn't it? Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned. He silently looked at the divine king, who was enjoying it, and wanted to cry but had no tears. You're really arrogant. Even the supreme-grade divine tea was said so lightly. The human race supreme laughed and said, but thanks to you, I finally tasted the taste of the Bodhi fruit. I have to say, this supreme-grade divine tea is indeed extraordinary. No, no. As long as the three of you are happy. Qin Feiyang waved his hand. At this point, what else could he say? It was better to be generous. Truth. The king looked at him mockingly. Qin Feiyang braced himself and nodded. Look at you, as if someone stole your treasure. The king shook his head and laughed, sit down and drink together. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded. It was a good opportunity to taste it. When he picked up the teacup and the tea entered his mouth, his mind suddenly became empty. The fatigue and negative emotions in his heart also seemed to be purified, and his whole body became clean. Moreover, his potential and comprehension seemed to have improved a little. Sure enough, it was true. This Bodhi fruit had great divine power. How's the talk with Neptune? The king asked with a smile. It's all right. Qin Feiyang smiled and looked down at the teacup. If he brought this tea back to Great Qin, wouldn't he be able to create a bunch of geniuses? Are you all right? The three of them looked at each other, then looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously and asked, what does this mean? He neither agreed nor refused. Qin Feiyang said. Ugh. The three of them were dumbfounded. How could this be considered all right? However, he doesn't have a choice unless he gives up on the sea gods and the hundreds of thousands of core clansmen. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. That shouldn't be possible. After all, these people are the cornerstones of the oceanic race. If we lose them, the oceanic race's vitality will be greatly damaged. I don't know how long it will take for them to recover. The divine king said. Yeah. Therefore, he could only agree. Now, we're just giving him some time to struggle. Qin Feiyang smiled. The divine king nodded. Suddenly, he thought of something and frowned. Is there a secret in your soul-sealing valley? Soul-sealing valley? Qin Feiyang was stunned and smiled. How could there be a secret in that place? Don't give me that. We've been to the entire Black Tortoise world, but when we went to Soul-Sealing Valley, we were stopped by your two subordinates. They wouldn't let us go no matter what. Moreover, we didn't find the sea gods and the hundreds of thousands of core clansmen. I think they should be imprisoned in Soul-Sealing Valley. The Divine King said. The sea gods were imprisoned in the ancient castle, but their auras were sealed by the ancient castle. Whether it was the 3 kings or the heavenly Pang and the 20 sea gods, they couldn't sense each other's auras. I really can't hide anything from you. Qin Feiyang smiled embarrassedly. The Divine King was confused. Why can't we see it? Of course we can't. If they see you all strolling around the Black Tortoise world, then wouldn't the matter of our alliance be exposed? Moreover, it's better not to go there. The smell is really bad. Qin Feiyang said. The king said with a dark face, so you're still thinking for us? Of course. Qin Feiyang nodded. The king's mouth twitched. What a slippery little bastard. Right. Didn't Yu Lao ask you to gather at the Dragon God Mountain 3 days later? It's time to go now. Qin Feiyang looked at the 3 and said. The Divine King was stunned and said angrily, Are you in such a hurry to chase us away? No, no. Important matters are more important. Qin Feiyang hurriedly waved his hand. What's the hurry? It's not too late to go at night. The Divine King said casually. Don't. They're from the Central Dynasty after all. We still have to give them face. Qin Feiyang smiled. Brat, didn't we just take one of your Bodhi fruits? Do you have to be so stingy? Moreover, when we killed Ji Tianfeng back then, you even promised us that you would give us some Bodhi fruits. The Divine King's face darkened. Hearing this, Qin Feiyang gritted his teeth and said, Fine, you two go ahead and take them. Really? The Divine King stood up and asked. Yes. Qin Feiyang endured the pain in his heart and nodded. The Divine King pursed his lips and looked at the supremacy of the human race. Since this brat is so filial to us, we won't be polite with him. The supremacy of the human race shook his head and laughed. The Divine King put down the teacup and walked to the 2 Bodhi trees and took out dozens of exquisite jade boxes. Each jade box was the size of an adult's palm. Looking at this scene, Qin Feiyang suddenly became anxious. Taking out so many jade boxes, was he planning to sweep them all away? No. At least leave some for him. The Divine King carefully picked the Bodhi fruits and gently put them into the jade boxes. Each jade box could hold 3 of them. Soon. The Divine King had placed 5 jade boxes, which meant that there were 15 pills. Every time the Divine King picked one, Qin Feiyang's heart would ache. When the 10th jade box was filled, the Divine King glanced at Qin Feiyang and couldn't help but want to laugh. Actually, she had been observing Qin Feiyang and saw that the more heartache Qin Feiyang was, the more she wanted to tease him. So, she raised her hand again and gently grabbed a Bodhi fruit. Enough. Don't pick any more, there's almost none left. Qin Feiyang wailed in his heart. But the Divine King suddenly let go of the Bodhi fruit. You're not picking any more. Qin Feiyang was stunned for a moment and secretly let out a long breath. Fortunately, there was still a lot left. But the next moment, the Divine King's voice sounded and asked, This box is too small, Supreme Being, do you have a bigger one? Hearing this, Qin Feiyang immediately couldn't sit still. A bigger box. You can't be like this, do you have to sweep it all away? Haha, suddenly. The Divine King laughed. With a wave of his hand, 5 jade boxes were left and the rest were put away. He looked at Qin Feiyang and said, look at how anxious you are, I'm just teasing you. Ha! Qin Feiyang looked at the Divine King in astonishment. The Divine King walked over and handed the 5 jade boxes left outside to the supreme being of the human race. 10 jade boxes, 30 Bodhi fruits, the two of them divided equally. Do you really think we will be so greedy? The Divine King rolled his eyes at him. Qin Feiyang came back to his senses and smiled embarrassedly. His little heart really couldn't bear it. The king watched the whole process, his face flushed red, and said with a smile, "Let's go to the Dragon God Mountain. This kid is right, after all, he is from the Central Dynasty, we have to give him enough face." Okay. Anyway, a certain brat can't wait for us to get out of here as soon as possible. The Divine King nodded. Ha! Qin Feiyang laughed dryly. The Divine King suddenly looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "By the way, I have good news to tell you," but before the Divine King could say anything, the king stopped him and said, "Don't tell him yet." Ha! The Divine King was puzzled. Qin Feiyang also had a suspicious look on his face. What good news? The king chuckled and said, "When we are ready, we will give him a surprise, no, a shock." A shock. The Divine King was stunned for a moment, then nodded and said, "That's right, for things like this, it is better to tell him at the end." What are you talking about? A surprise one moment, a shock the next. Qin Feiyang looked at the two of them in a panic. Don't worry, it must be good news. That's all for now. Send us out. The king smiled slightly. The more he said this, the more uneasy Qin Feiyang felt. However, there was nothing he could do about these 3 giants, so he could only send them out obediently. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.